Evening, the regular meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, September 12th will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phones. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
Here.
Commissioner McGirt?
Here.
Commissioner Perrine?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Here.
Mayor Cleveland?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Police Department Chaplain Pastor Pete Carter will now give the invocation. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Most kind Creator, we thank you for this opportunity to come now and to discuss those things that will continue to make our city a better place. We ask that you continue to look upon those who serve, those who reside, and those that visit this place. May they find this a place of rest. May they find this a place of comfort. And may they find this a place of peace. And even so, God, as we reflect even on those who made the ultimate sacrifice when our country endured a most horrendous day, we thank you, O God, that although our wounds are healing, our scars remind us of their sacrifice and their duties, and they should never be forgotten. We thank you. In your matchless name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Pete. And now our Fire Chief, Sean Vandermark, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Pastor Pete. Please be seated. The picture on the screen is of a patriot, of a citizen here in New Smyrna. This is David Norval, who yesterday on 9/11 walked 9 miles around the city carrying the U.S. flag in commemoration of one of the darkest days our country has had since Pearl Harbor. This is Dave Norval. You'll see him around town, and if you give him a wave, you'll have brightened his day. He's an amazing patriot and a son of New Smyrna Beach. So speaking of that, if you don't mind, indulge us with a moment of silence to commemorate that happened many years ago, 22 years ago on this day. Thank you very much. May we never forget. Okay, let's approve the minutes. Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to the published agenda?
No changes, sir. The only thing I would like, when you get to the consent agenda, I would like to pull item 7Y for additional information.
You'll speak to 7Y when it comes up.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you so much. I'll mark it now. And sir, now on to your report. Have you got one for us?
Sir, and I'll try to be short. At the last meeting, we only had 2 public participation comments that they did not require any action. Just wanted to remind the Commission of this past couple of weeks where we had to activate our Emergency Operations Center due to the expected of a hurricane. And I could tell you this, by the time we found out that it's not gonna pass through Volusia County, I cannot tell you the expression on the staff and the citizens, how happy we were that we are hurricanes at this point, but prepared to handle the hurricane. We activated the AOC, we had staff stayed out there. We had a couple of conference calls with the county. So I think we were ready for a hurricane, but thank God we dodged the bullets. So all that I say, thank God. The notice to proceed for the 5th Street Bridge was issued. Today was the beginning of the construction of the 5th Street Bridge. I think some residents, they're asking for us to have I think they asked Commissioner Perrine to have a town hall meeting where we maybe just kind of give them some information on the construction. So that probably will coming up probably in a couple of weeks or so when we have some time to schedule a meeting for them. We had a meeting with DOT regarding a trail that they're proposing, and I want them to meet individually and then have a meeting so they could inform the residents who live in the area of the route. So that's coming up as well. The Wall of Champions at the sport complex finally is complete. We have a lot of requests from outside the high school that they wanted to post some stuff. So we're trying to make sure that the coordination is through the high school and see how that's going to happen. So I'm sure we'll make some adjustments as we go along. The parking task force will finalize their recommendation to the commission. Their meeting is on the 19th of September. That will be their last meeting. And I think at the last meeting, they went through their recommendations. So they will prepare a report and present it to the commission at a later date. And also, I just want to remind us and the public that tomorrow at 5:15, we will have our first public hearing on our budget. That's a very important item for us at this point because, as you know, budget will be adopted October 1st. We have quite a bit of citations around 2nd Avenue that was brought up at the previous City Commission meeting, so that is being handled as we speak. The street resurfacing program has started, and I just want to make sure that residents understand that resurfacing is different than paving. Paving is when you pave a road that is unpaved. Resurfacing is maintenance of an existing road. So I'm sure that it's going to probably take another month for us to complete the list that we have on our. People are wondering, when is my street is to be resurfaced? We have a consultant who did a whole study. Every street in the city was ranked based on an index, and we're going through the list. The list be provided to the commission for approval before we go out. So sometimes they wonder why my street is going to take 2-3 years, but that's why, because we're going through the actual study that was done by the consultant some time back. With that, Mayor, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from any commissioner on the manager's report? Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate all those announcements. I know the public does. It's now time for public participation. We're here to listen to your remarks, your comments, a monologue from you, if you will, about things you like that's going on in the city, a city employee that you want to cite for a particular accolade or a concern you might have about something going on. It's not a dialogue. We won't be answering questions. We encourage you to come up and use your 3 minutes and tell us what you think. You'll see a green light come on as soon as you speak, a yellow light when you have 1 minute to go, and you'll be done at the red light. If you'll offer your name and address when you come forward, that'll help us for the record. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the commission? Please come forward, ma'am.
John R. Schmidt, 1403 North Peninsula Avenue, New Smyrna Beach.
Hi, John.
I have a concern with the New Smyrna Beach parking rules. The 4-hour parking rule, as it is enforced at the present time, offers no consideration to an independent contractor who often comes and goes within the 4-hour parking period and offers no routine start and end times and no regularity in days. I know the time that I arrive at the parking space, but not when the attendant notes my time and when the photo of the tag is taken, nor the position of the valve stem that is recorded in the system. I am a realtor and independent contractor whose office is in the 300 block of Flagler Avenue. I also have a 4-foot sign with my business card information fastened to the top of my car while parked. At 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, September 1st, I parked in the far northeasterly parking space in front of 315 Flagler Avenue, which happens to be in front of Beachside Realty, my office. At 1:15 p.m., I left the parking space for approximately 90 minutes to show property and take care of other matters. Luckily, when I returned, the same parking space in front of my office was at approximately 2:45 p.m. The space was vacant, so I parked there again. At 3:40 p.m., I witnessed from the office window the parking officer placing a citation beneath my left windshield wiper blade. I tried to explain to the officer that I had not violated the 4-hour time limit since I was parked in the space for a limited amount of time, and the officer stated that he recorded my tag at 11:06 a.m. and that the valve stem was in the identical position. I asked him to verify the clock position as compared to the latter, and he refused, handing me a business card and telling me to take it up with Nancy Chapman. I asked the officer to take the citation back, and he refused, showing me the handheld device with a photo of my tag and my vehicle with my signage. The conversation became difficult, and law enforcement was summoned. The purpose of my visit this evening is to let the Commission know that I make my professional livelihood in real estate on Flagler Avenue, often meeting new and past customers who see my sign and come in to discuss real estate. I would like to find an amicable solution to this reoccurring problem for those of us who make our professional living on Flagler Avenue, and to be offered an exemption to the rule. This might be done in the form of a decal that would let the parking officer know that those of us with the exemption have been granted special consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your remarks.
Good evening. My name is Susan Hounsome, and I'm the broker of Beachside Realty. I'm in the same office that John was just talking about. And it is a problem for us as business people. We have people that say, well, could you meet me somewhere because I don't have a place to park? And I understand that it comes with the territory of having a busier city than we ever used to have. I have an office manager. Her name is Amy. And she has had 6 parking tickets. And I do need to tell you that she's very aware of when she comes in and when she goes, but sometimes we just miss it by 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And I want to tell you, that parking attendant's right on top of everything. And there are times that in her 6 tickets, she went to dispute one because she had some physical facts that she could say to the judge. As it happened, no one showed up, so she was granted a lenience on that parking ticket. But there are times that we are absolutely sure that we have been misjudged in our parking time there. And there are times that we, as the people in the business, have made an error by 10 or 15 minutes. And so it is a problem. But I was wanting to tell or speak to you and say that there could be a solution or a partial solution to this problem, and that I consider to be a forgiveness, maybe one forgiveness a month. Maybe we could have the forgiveness mailed, or maybe we could get a decal, or maybe we could go down and when we pay the ticket, we could say, this is our forgiveness once a month, because as my office manager said, and as John has said, they are absolutely certain on certain occasions that they did not violate the law, but there's no recourse for them to do anything about it. So if we could have maybe one forgiveness once a month for both us and for our customers, that would certainly help good relations and customers on Flagler Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Audio Ricker, school teacher. That's why I kept raising my hand. 815 Willard Street, New Smyrna Beach, Florida, longtime New Smyrna Beach resident. My concern is with the homeless people that keep on coming to 27th Avenue. It's gotten to the point where they are now living there. There's shampoo, there's bedding, there's... I understand that the plight that these folks are having, and I certainly can sympathize with them. But the fact is that some of these homeless people are people who just got out of prison that are up there where our residents are coming, our children are coming, and there's no regard for who's there. I have noticed, because I watch the police blog all the time, I read it all the time just to keep an eye on what's going on in the neighborhood. And I see that transients are, what's the word that you use? They are trespassed out of like Pettis Park, trespassed out of other parks, but they don't seem to be trespassed out of New Smyrna Beach. The Flagler Avenue, there was one at 27th Avenue where a man exposed himself to a young girl. So I think that there needs to be more proactive keeping an eye on this. These people, you had one, now you have two, you have three. I don't know if anybody's ever lived up I lived in Tennessee for a while. Asheville, North Carolina is a cool town, it's a hip town. What they did, they made the mistake of letting everybody come in there. People are on the streets defecating in the corners, urinating everywhere. You let 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I spoke with a wonderful officer, and he told me that we are looking to maybe get a shelter, which I'm looking at. Perhaps that's 7.1. Approval of a contract for First Step Shelter. That might be a good thing. Says we need $50,000. I think we're one of the richest cities in the county of Volusia. I don't think that'd be a problem. Probably the big problem is, like, I don't want this in my backyard, but do we want this in our front yard? I worry about the children going there. There needs to be a little bit more comprehensive details and checking out these people who are sleeping and living there and what their background is. Ex-cons out there with your kids out there going to the bathroom at the same time with them, that really concerns me. And I think that we should look at a shelter and consider getting the monies for the shelter and consider a location. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Michael Paler, 519 Canal
Raise
Street.
that, if you don't mind, sir, just raise that microphone and talk right into it.
Michael Paler, 519 Canal Street. I've got two things I'd like to discuss this afternoon. First of all is the parking thing. I've lived in that house for 7 years next to Big Joe's Subs, and I'm getting ticketed now. Never gotten ticketed before. So I'd like to know that this is the only residential house left in that section of Canal Street. If there could be some sort of parking pass that I can purchase or something along those lines. But I find that a little distressing. But the other item is, and I don't know if the person's still out there, the homeless person that is has their pants down below their buttocks was out here earlier. I don't know if they're still out there or not, but they hang out at the Canal Street in front of Big Joe's, walking in and out of traffic. I've tried to go through Officer Ron to get her trespassed off the property, which I've had no luck doing that. So I think, if we could learn something from what Daytona has done, and by their mistake of not being able to enforce that correctly, maybe we could find a spot that's not so desirable as far as we as having to look at it all the time, but give them a place where they could panhandle and do that. But also, I'm sure with the resources that we have in our town, and as smart as you folks are up here, I'm sure you can look at what they did wrong and figure a way to get around that thing that they messed up on. So that's basically all I've got to say. Thank you very much. Y'all have a nice evening.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Linda Santo, 315 North Causeway. Besides being a resident, I'm also a Florida Coastal Systems Master Naturalist. The first thing I'd like to do is to echo the concern about the homelessness. We actually found a homeless person sleeping in the lobby of our building one morning. And so I'm encouraging you to approve, I believe it's 7T, the contract with First Step of Daytona. They did a presentation at the last meeting, and it sounded like a really great program, so that would be a help to us. Thank you. Second, I'd like to say how sad I was about the Boardwalk District rezoning vote. They'd stated that traffic wasn't going to be a problem, but in the short-term rentals, there's one down the block, there's 4 cars parked in front of it on the weekend. with 12 houses doing short-term, and weeklies generally check out at 11 o'clock on Saturday, that could be 48 cars going down the street on Saturday morning. Right after them, on the other direction, will be 12 cars with cleaning people coming in to clean. It's a problem, and unlike they said in the meeting that pedestrians have the right of way, it's not really so. It would be nice. And it's a narrow road, there's no sidewalks. But they did suggest that, well, the residents or the tenants there could go out the other entrance and walk directly on the beach. That's nice, and that would reduce the foot traffic, but the problem with that is those houses are right on the dunes. So they walk out right on the dunes. None of them have walkovers there. It's a problem. Which brings us to the other residents there, the sea turtles. In spite of the dune loss, there actually is a turtle nest there in front of 903 North Atlantic. It's one of the few properties that still has a dune, but unfortunately, 2 doors away from that, there's a home that has exterior lighting, which lights up the beach. They have a porch light, which lights it up, and some interior lights. And as you all know, I'm sure, the sea turtles see the lights and they go the wrong way. They don't go for the beach, and some of them are lost that way. Sorry, I lost my place. So the comprehensive plan says that New Smyrna Beach will enforce the beach lighting restrictions. And I talked to the NSB lighting coordinator who said she'd put a door hanger on that property to let them know. But the problem is with short-term rentals, it's a new person every week. They don't know what the rule was. They have ways to send out information about it. They put it on next door. They send out letters to the owners. But it doesn't really reach the occupants. And it's a problem, especially in that area, because of the dunes. The County Beach Lighting Management Plan, referring to that district, says the homes at the Crawford Approach sit right on the beach. There's very little dune in this area. Because of this, lights associated with those homes will be more problematic. I'm not sure what you can do, but I hope you can come up with something to help the sea turtles and the traffic on that street. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hillary Brandt, 920 Faulkner Street, and I'm coming here as a representative from the whole community of Faulkner. We filled out the application for traffic calming devices. We got almost the entire road to sign it, the petitions. Unfortunately, they couldn't come to the meeting because a lot of people are away. Anyway, I just wanted to hope y'all would consider the recommendations by Kyle Freagley for our traffic calming devices. We desperately need it, and we see with forthcoming development that it's going to be even worse. It's becoming a bypass for going down the freeway. People are flying, hanging to left off of US 1, headed south, cutting down through Faulkner, racing up to the stop sign. Some are stopping, and some are not stopping at all. They're just going like this and flying right through. And there's a lot of residents who are older in that community, a lot of older homes built in the 50s. There's only one way in there, straight into your driveway, and then you have to back out to get out. And it's a problem. We also have quite a few new residents who have younger children. And I talked to one of them today who couldn't make it because, of course, their kids have ball and all that sort of thing, and they have to cook dinner. But they said, you know, we want to go bike riding. And you get on the sidewalk and try to go bike riding, and you've only got this much grass, and then you've got a sidewalk that's only this wide, and people going on their cell phones and, you know, whatever, not paying much attention. They're just cutting through. They're not realizing this is a residential neighborhood. So we just ask that you would please consider giving us some more traffic calming devices on that road so that we can slow people down and encourage those with diesel pickup trucks and work vehicles to stay on US 1, because not only are they noisy, generally going kind of fast, but not necessarily, and they have diesel exhaust. And that stinks. And when you don't have a breeze and you've got 4 or 5 people going over to the beach to get to work and all, it starts to smell in the neighborhood. And we've got US 1 with all of the noise from that. So we're getting hit on both sides. So I just please ask you would consider doing something for us as a community, and don't let us become the second freeway. Thanks so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
Good evening. My name is Robert Fike, and I live at 2977 Gibraltar. and I have another traffic calming for you this evening. Gibraltar Boulevard, as you may know, runs from Pioneer Trail to Sugar Mill, and it's right through the middle of Coastal Woods. How that street is situated allows a lot of cut-through traffic. And with the cut-through traffic, we get associated problems, which is the sheer number of vehicles, the speed, and automobile crashes. Now, neighbors and myself noticed an alarming trend because at the intersection of Syme and Gibraltar is a school bus stop for elementary, middle school, and high school students. And every day, you see the students on their way to the bus stop cross Gibraltar, and a lot of them don't look. So what we were trying to do is find a way to protect these kids. So we approached Zone 4 Commissioner Randy Hartman, and we asked for his help. And Randy met with me and the HOA manager to discuss the problem, come up with some viable solutions that were fiscally responsible and something we could enact quickly, because we don't want it to drag on and risk the lives of the kids there on that street. He also helped to set up a meeting with Police Chief Feldman and the HOA manager. The chief discussed traffic and parking ordinances at that meeting, and then he came to a board of directors meeting with the HOA, again discussed the traffic and parking ordinances, and he also fielded questions from the residents there at that meeting. So he spent quite a bit of time with us, and we are very grateful for that. A traffic study was completed and showed that 13,000 vehicles in a one-week period went through that intersection. So we approached Kyle Fegley, and he came up with solutions. One of them is to create an all-way stop at the corner of Syme and Gibraltar. So I have to say thank you to Randy, thank you to the chief, and thank you to Kyle for taking this seriously. But I don't want it just to be me, because the parents, the grandparents, and the residents of Coastal Woods appreciate you guys, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Good evening. Stephen Yates, 215 Sandy Lane, and I wanted to speak tonight on two issues. One, my property at 217 Sandy Lane is on the docket tonight for discussion. It has a property lien on it. And also, certain citizens have called my integrity into question. That is related to my membership on the Planning and Zoning Board. So I wanted to address those two things. 8 years ago, I moved here with my family, and the property next to mine, 217, had a house that a tree had fallen into it, and the city had torn the house down. So that was about 12 years ago. About 2 years after that, the city then, of course, removed the building and put a lien on the property. The neighborhood was up in arms over a home with a tree in it, and people were going in it, and they weren't taking care of it's a corner lot. And so after a couple of years, they put a lien on it. That was 2014. I moved in 2015. As you can imagine, now a lot with no home, got trash, people would dump things on it. So I started cleaning it up. I worked with the Code Enforcement Board to try to understand what I could do about it. It eventually, due to property taxes not being paid, was sold off to a gentleman. And then 2 years ago, I was able to purchase it. And my whole intent of purchasing the property is to keep it looking good. The city would come in every year and mow it once, but as you can imagine, the rest of the year it would be in disrepair and looking poorly. So 2 years ago, I purchased it. Unfortunately, there are rather large liens from the city cleaning up the property and tearing down the building that occurred prior to me taking care of the property. So it looks like I own a property and I owe the city a lot of money, but it's not my liens, and they were far before I took possession of the property. So that's on the docket tonight for discussion for you guys, so it happened to be that. In addition to that, I'm on the Planning and Zoning Board, and unfortunately, I lost my dad this year, and I missed 3 of the meetings this year taking care of him, so I haven't been able to be a regular part of that, but basically there were some comments about whether I was fit to serve on that board, and I can tell you I volunteered for that board because I care about the beauty and the charm of our city, and I own a business, and I thought I could bring some leadership to that board, and I enjoy working with the city team and us making this city a better place, but I wanted to shed some light and set the record straight of those liens and my commitment to the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission?
Evening. My name is Myron Hammond, 1980 Waterford Estate Drive in New Smyrna Beach. I own Edgewater Towing and Recovery and Heavy Hauling, and I'm asking the city commissioners and all to reconsider the towing contract that you have with if y'all could revisit it. I know Elite Towing is off of the towing now, and there's 2 towers on, which is Bishop's and Universal. I have been on the towing for the city for over 20 some years, and something happened in communication between the city extensions and that and my office manager, and we got dropped. We have the heavy equipment, we have everything to do, tow for the city, anything. The way they have it set up right now, they gave Universal Towing 2 weeks, which if you don't want to consider me, that's okay, but I think it's wrong to the other tower, Bishop's Towing, because he has 1 week. And then Universal has 2 weeks, and then goes back to 1 week. I mean, if you want to consider fairness, it should have been, since one dropped out, it should have been Bishop's and then Universal, then Bishop's and Universal. I mean, that's what I think would have been fair. But I'd like you to revisit the contract. We've done some nice work for the city. We've been in some serious accidents and helped out. We weren't on call. I'd just like you to check us out and see what you could do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else like to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. Thank you for your comments. Let's now move on to the consent agenda. There any commissioner would like to have any item pulled off the consent agenda? Yes, ma'am.
7Z is in zebra.
Z is in zebra. Got it? Commissioner Perrine?
7T
T
for
is in
Tom,
tango-
for
T is in
comment
Tom.
only.
T is in Tom for comment. Anybody else?
7E.
7 Echo. Got it? Nothing. Okay. Seven Yankee, 7Y for comment. 7Z's been pulled, very good. Okay, with that said, Chair would entertain a motion to approve items 7A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, PQRSU VWX AA, AB, and AC.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Hartman,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Perine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the consent agenda is largely approved. Let's go through these, please. Let's start with 7E, 7 Echo.
So I believe it was at our last meeting that we did pass a motion to go ahead with the purchase of the fire trucks. And at that time, we were told they would be taken out of the excess reserve funds, the funds that were in excess of what we were required to keep on hand. I would rather keep it in that motion as far as avenue, as far as funding. I really don't want to go into looking at getting more debt, which is going to incur over the next 10 years. If in fact we do have the money to pay for them now, I'd rather pay for them now out of the excess reserves. I know that some of that money was going to be earmarked for future projects. I would like, my opinion is that we really need to finish up some of the projects that we already have going, that we're in midstream. We have 2 stormwater projects that are over almost 4 years old, and we're still in the middle of another hurricane season, and we haven't even broken ground on those. So if going forward we have a project that comes up, like raising some of these homes or something, then at that time we should discuss how we're going to fund it once we know for sure if we're going to get either FEMA grants or funding from other sources and go through that process. But my recommendation would be just go ahead and leave it as it is, as the motion stated, that we pay it out of the excess reserve funds and be done with it.
Which is as written, yeah?
No, this says we're going to do future tax exempt financing. I don't want to finance them.
I understand now.
So you want to, when you say excess reserves, you're talking about the reserve fund?
No, we have a reserve fund, and then we have excess reserve funds. And there were almost $7 million in the reserve fund at one time. And that's how we originally set the motion up, was to pay for it out of the excess reserve funds. That was the motion to go ahead with the initial purchase, which we did with the stipulation at some point in time we may come back further to look at financing options. I'd rather not finance it. If we have the money, then we should go ahead and commit that money to that project at this time. And as these other projects come up, then we can look at different financing options as we go forward. They may be for shorter terms. As we all know, especially Commissioner Martin, some of these FEMA grants with the Ian and Irma, these things take years to actually develop and even get through the process, so that we'll have plenty of time at some point in the future. And some of those other projects that are going that's going to be reimbursed, once the project is completed, we'll have that money come back into the reserve fund.
Okay, hold on, I need, okay. You're confusing me with your terminology.
All right.
So we have a reserve fund.
Yes.
We're in excess of the required 25%.
Yes.
You refer to the excess reserve fund, and I'm just trying to clarify. Is that a separate reserve fund that you're talking about? Because I'm not aware of that. What do you mean by excess reserve?
City Manager, for clarification, you can enlighten us all.
I think what Vice Mayor is saying is, it's the money above the 25% that it's required to be in the general fund reserve. So it doesn't, he just used the term in excess, that means on top of what we have in 25%. That's what he
so
meant.
we're talking about the reserve fund.
General fund reserve, yes, sir.
General fund reserves.
Right. Okay, so, and you mean, I got what you're saying. Thank you, City Manager. That clarified, but there's only one reserve fund.
Yeah.
Gotcha. No, it's okay. I just.
And Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, please.
This is taking the money out of the general fund reserve right now. So we are not discussing of how we are going to, if we are going to repay back to the general fund reserve. My only concern, and I agree with Vice Mayor, my only concern is if you do that, it's a $3-point-something million for these 3 fire trucks. If we end up with some kind of emergency, besides what we have on the 25%, for example, some of these stormwater projects, even if they are FEMA funded, I have to upfront all the costs and then get reimbursed by FEMA. So And it takes, just keep in mind, it takes about, I think when we had the financial advisor, it takes about 90 days from the time that we initiate the RFP to the time that we actually get the money. So just keep that in mind. If you need the money, it's going to take about 90 days, at least.
One more time, Commissioner Hartman, can you talk about, what's the figure in the excess? What's the number we've got in there? 7?
At the time of the meeting, it was around 7, but I know that there's been other monies committed to it. I know that the 2024 budget has some of that money also in anticipation of using some of that money for the 2024 budget. But I certainly think there's more than the $3.5 million. We're going to approve a $250,000 from the impact fee to go towards the purchase, so that will bring the purchase of the fire trucks down by that amount. So I understand Colin's concern, but I'd rather pay my bills now, and if we need more money, we'll go to the line of credit or something along those lines at that point in time. Interest rates may be better 2 years from now.
Yeah, and I don't think there's an issue there. I think it's fine. The only thing is we have other items that we are taking it out of the general fund reserve, which tomorrow that will be discussed during the budget meeting. And at some point we had the 7 million, but just keep in mind we assigned some of these dredging project that we're going to take it out of fund, general fund reserve. The street lighting on Flagler, it's proposed to be out of the general fund reserve. So there's other items there, but I don't think you need to make a decision now. I think the decision is you decided to pay out of the general fund reserve, so that's what you're doing today. And then as far as refinancing or doing whatever, I think that will be coming up at a different meeting.
1 minute. Commissioner Perrine.
Comment, please.
Yep.
So everybody knows I've had a problem with this loan from the beginning. It's no doubt we need to get the 3 fire trucks, but the problem I had was the newspaper and everybody in the comments saying we're going to save $360,000. Well, that's true if we don't get the loan. If we get the loan, I believe Assistant Manager Ron calculated that we would be spending about $300,000 in interest before we even get the fire trucks, because it's going to take 2 years to get the fire trucks. So realistically, we're only going to save about $60,000. So if we do what Commissioner or Vice Mayor Hartman says, then I agree with that, because we would truly save $360,000. Now the problem is tomorrow when we do our budget, I saw where they used reserves for Flagler lights, and I don't know why they are doing that. So let's look at that tomorrow and figure that out. But I agree with Vice Mayor Hartman. Let's use the overage in the reserve for the 3 fire trucks.
Could I just
In just a second, you can come up, Commissioner McGurk.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. So I don't disagree with anything discussed right now. Dealing with the city manager's concern of such a large output from the reserve fund, another alternative is to get the loan. Make sure we don't have any prepayment penalty on that loan. And then over by the end of the year or in the first quarter, we can go ahead if the city manager's concerns are alleviated. We can simply now then take that chunk of money from the reserve funds and pay off that loan in full. So a couple ways to skin this cat. I think that would be a way to not incur a lot of interest over that short period of time, and also maybe relieve the concern city manager may have about such a big outlay at one time.
Commissioner Martin.
The question I would have is if we reach a position where the reserves, let's say we put this money, what we have over the 25%, we put the money towards the fire trucks or fire equipment. And if we have something catastrophic happen in the city, how long, do we have a credit rating that would enable us to borrow a few million rather rapidly?
Absolutely.
so that we really wouldn't be risking anything by going ahead and using this money from the reserves for those, for that equipment?
You wouldn't, but it just takes time. It takes time now.
Well, when I say rapidly, I'd like to know, what do you, to me, a couple of weeks, well, generally an invoice is 30 days, so could we get money as needed within about 30 to 45 days?
I cannot answer that question because I don't know. I have to find out and I'll let you know. But I honestly don't know how long would it take, but I know it would be faster than just a regular loan.
Okay, thank you.
That's helpful. I appreciate you asking that question. And Commissioner McGurk's idea, I'm fascinated with that. Your idea is leave this open as an option and get the loan and then pay it off immediately with the reserve funds. Is that the idea?
Yeah, the idea would be to go ahead and get the loan, and we then have the ability with no prepayment penalty to pay that loan off in full with that reserve fund as soon as the city manager has any kind of, his concerns have alleviated, or we have more FEMA money coming in. In other words, and I think that would be what's going to happen within the next, say, 6 months with the general fund money coming in, additional new monies coming into the general fund. That would then alleviate the concern of such a large output of $3 million.
My concern would be that there is a cost to getting a loan. So it's money out to actually get the loan, as we know. So it's not free to go out, even without a prepayment penalty.
Of course, but we're talking about the big picture here. Nothing's free. Either way is going to cost us money.
Is the reserve account and the extra in the reserve account currently drawing interest, and what does it draw?
I don't have the exact amount, but tomorrow we'll let you know. But I'm sure that there is an interest on it too.
So we're drawing interest right now off of that. Yeah, for sure. Interesting.
If we are paying the loan early, so what's the purpose of taking the loan? So just take it out of the general fund reserve, and then if you need the money, then you'll be able to go out for a loan. So that's just my suggestion.
Yeah, so maybe Commissioner McGurk, Jason, you can help us with this. What's the triggering event that says, okay, and now we'll pay it off? And what in your mind, where do you see that?
Well, that's due to the city manager's concern about such an large outlay coming out immediately, and that's it. But if we have an open line of credit, which would make sense, or access to money very quickly, it's 6.5 dozen the other without having to pay any fees on the loan. So, number of different ways we can do this, and I think we're having a good discussion on all the different options.
Really, really good. And so those that have been around longer than I, is it common for a city to have a line of credit that's standing that you need it when you want it?
And
what Commissioner Martin was talking about, not free, but you get it and you've had it for life, and then you use it when you need it.
Currently, I think we do have a line of credit for some of the projects, like for the elevation projects. So I'll talk to the finance director tomorrow, and I will be able to provide maybe a more detailed report at the budget meeting, if that's okay.
Very good. Point of order from the city attorney, please. Can we amend what's written?
We can either have staff withdraw it, or you can vote it up or down.
Okay, well, we can vote it down and then vote a different motion that the vice mayor might make, right?
Correct.
Okay, very good. So, you know what we have to do here. If we want to change it, we will vote this one down, and then the vice mayor will restate, which is basically pretty simple, leave the as paid for off, and then we could vote that up, and that then leaves it open.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I will vote to approve 7E. I will vote to approve 7E.
Have a vote. We have a motion
Second.
to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. And Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perine?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
No.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
No.
Commissioner Martin?
No.
Mayor Cleveland?
No. Motion fails. We'll entertain a motion in substitute. Vice Mayor.
So I don't think we need a motion because we made a motion at the last meeting to fund these trucks through the
Correct.
reserve account, general fund
So we're
reserve
just
account.
proceeding on the.
No
on the
action
course.
required.
Correct.
So that's
Very
what we're
good.
currently doing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's go to 7T, 7 Tango, please.
Yes, I pulled that for comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I will approve this, but I'd also like staff to continue working with First Step Shelter on obtaining a board seat for us for New Smyrna. If you could make sure you make that a must, if possible.
Yes, ma'am. And also, the chief has reached out to the executive director, which she talked to the mayor of Daytona, and they didn't see any problem, but they had to go before the city commission for Daytona Beach. So as soon as that happened, we'll let you know. But we have made the request, and I think we received a blessing there. So
Thank you so much.
And as I understand it, it is not unusual, and there are others participating municipalities that have a board seat. Is that accurate?
I think other cities have seats
Very
on
good.
their boards. So.
Very wise move. Excellent. Okay, so any other discussion on 7T? Have a motion, please, to approve 7T.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Preen?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Let's take up 7Y, 7 Yankee. Consider the approval of replacement for the Marianne Clancy Park ADA ramp and stairs.
Mayor, a couple of things. The maintenance operation director, he wanted to provide additional information to this item. So due to the emergency of the repair, we didn't put it out to bids. So what happened is we got a proposal from two contractors. Our standard contract has a builder's risk in the contract, but when they got the proposal from the contractor, that was not part of the proposal, which is almost over $10,000. We don't think that this is needed. It's not really next to buildings or anything. So the contract that you have, we provided a revised contract for you. We took the builder's risk out of it. So that's what the information he's providing. So David, if you have any additional information, please provide that.
No, I think you covered it pretty well. It's a standard agreement, like City Manager said. Without it being a true building, we don't feel it needs to be in there. The company does have their general liability, their workers' comp liability. They have all the other insurance needed for this project.
Any questions by any commissioner?
I would agree with staff's assessment on that.
Very good.
And we checked with legal, Mayor, I'm sorry. We checked with legal. They're fine with it as well. And also, since they have the liability, I think that they're fine. So we're not concerned about it.
Very good. Thank you, Director Ray. Appreciate that. Is there a motion to approve 7Y?
So moved.
So motion.
Second.
And a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Preen?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
7Y is approved. Let's move on to 7Z, 7 Zulu. Approval of the adjustment to uncollectible accounts receivable at the end of FY '23.
I have a problem with forgiving liens that are on a property when the property is purchased. If they don't have title insurance, not the city's problem. It's part of the purchase price. You pay the liens that are on the purchase, on the property that you purchase. I don't believe we should forgive them.
So comment by the city manager, and then we'll go back and forth. Yes, sir.
If I may, Mayor, just to, I guess, explain this maybe a little further. What you have before you here that the finance department has provided, it's a list. They are not liens. What happened is they didn't have a good documentation to submit the lien. These are all liens. So, for example, somebody purchased a property. If there's a lien on the property, they pay it. So they paid the liens on the property, but this particular, some of these items, they were not lien filed. So we did the work, but there is no document to support to file for a lien. So right now we have a system that we have remapped the whole system that where if we have an issue like this, we immediately will file a lien. But these particular ones, they don't.
So we're saying that this was, shall we say, employee error that's led to this?
Absolutely. And there is a couple of items here where they invoice the property owner twice. So they paid, so the other invoice, it shows as a debt, but it's not there. That's why it's a write-off. So for example, I invoiced you twice for the same work. You paid the first invoice. The second invoice, it's already, you paid it, but it shows on the books that it's still a debt, so. And
That
that's
is certainly regrettable, isn't it?
Mhm. But anyway, we have a good system now that where there is a good records keeping on filing the liens.
What are the dates on these?
They range from, there is some 2005, there is some 2003, there is some 2008, 2016, 2018, 2017, 2011. So the 2020 is the, I guess it's the latest that they have.
So what process did we put in place in 2020
So-
to make sure this wouldn't happen again?
So right now, what we have is code enforcement. Every invoice that we have, finance has a copy of it. There's a file attached to it, and they will file for the lien immediately.
As soon as they receive it from code enforcement?
Yes. But before, somehow, because we had 3 different administrative assistants, obviously, when I was looking into it today, that's what happened. These were going from one to another, and they were not filed. That's the nutshell of the problem.
Any other comments? So I'll make a few. I'm delighted that it was found. I'm delighted to know that you have a new remedy. We all understand human error. I think you said some words about it, perhaps an accounting error where it was twice charged and once paid. So I don't want to leave the innuendo to square me away if I'm not correct there. Was paid, but was not recorded accurately.
No, what I'm saying is the same invoice we're actually mailed twice. So they paid the invoice, but the other invoice, it still shows on the book as an invoice. So that's what the write-off is.
I understand. So they in fact were paid.
Yes.
That's
There
what I
is
wanted
2
to
items
confirm.
in here that they were paid.
And just back to Commissioner Martin's point, is there do you now have a document, an instruction, a city manual that says these are the dance steps, these are what we do? It's written down so that it will be documented as a process in
Yes, sir.
place? It's all
Right
written
now,
down.
that's what we have.
Okay, not just common knowledge, not just somebody knows to do it. It's actually in an instruction or a document that we follow.
Yeah. Now we have somebody in finance working very close with code enforcement, administrative assistant. So all this information is translated between code enforcement and finance. So there's a good documentation at this point of all the liens that we have. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a process in place now to periodically check to make sure that the new process is working?
Yes, I talked to the code enforcement supervisor this morning, and I wanted to go over the administrative assistant bi-weekly or bi-monthly.
So
Just
wait,
to-
so you will be going over it either bi-weekly or bi-monthly?
To go over, the code enforcement supervisor with the administrative assistant and finance, to go over it either bi-weekly or monthly. To go over the list, to make sure that
Okay,
they're
so
filed
it's
and
up to the code enforcement supervisor to make sure that this occurs. Thank you.
So I'm gonna make sure that she's involved with it, with finance as well.
Very good. Commissioner Perrine?
The one I had a problem with was the parking on Flagler. The business is still operating, and they only voted last year to do away with those parking fees. Was that one that was paid twice, or is that still due?
No, that one is not one of the one paid twice. The one paid twice is, it's, if you look on your list, it's number 12442. that was billed twice and they paid it. The one you're talking about is the parking leases?
Yes.
No. I don't think you could file a lien on that one. We have sent invoices, and just to make a note, Mayor, as well, doesn't mean that if this is a write-off that we would stop asking them to pay. So I just want to make sure that we will continue asking these people to pay for this.
So to follow up with that, because we talked about that yesterday, how often do you actually collect write-offs and how much over the last years?
Well, if you look at this, we have $11,054, $11,054 out of a budget of $111 million. Out of the 11,000, there is 8,000 for general fund, and the rest of it is different funds. So, in terms of debts, it's really it still is 11,000. Don't take me wrong. I want to collect it, but in terms of the overall budget, it's really minute.
I guess that wasn't my question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. My question is, over the years, how much do we have in bad debts and how much have been collected of ones that have been written off?
What I'm saying is we have collected everything we have. This is the only thing we have not.
This 11,000 is all we have.
This year. Now, I'm sure there is.
In past years, did we collect?
I think in past years, the write-offs were even less than this. But I'm sure that we have some liens that we are trying to collect as well, so.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Martin? Oh, I thought you had one, okay.
No,
Commissioner
I'm
McGirt?
good. So, kind of what Valley was saying, I'm looking at the names and the businesses. Mr. Yates came in and discussed where he wasn't the person who actually did the wrong. Is that possible for the other names or names of businesses on this sheet?
Is that possible to do what?
Is it possible that, so I'm looking at a business on Flagler that says that they owe money on this, they're gonna be forgiven. Mr. Yates' name is on this, and he says he did not own the property during that time and incurred the actual liens or the fees or the fines. So can I be looking at these names on this sheet of the businesses on Flagler and it'd be a similar situation?
It could be.
Okay.
It could be. The difference between Mr. Yates and the Flagler Avenue, it's more of a parking lease. His issue is he bought the property. It had these fees on the property, but they were not as liens. So the liens were paid, but these fees were not because they were not filed liens.
I understand that.
So, but the parking is, these businesses, they lease parking spaces from the CRA.
Yeah.
They're supposed to pay an annual fee and they were not paid, so. And
So
we
I
have-
guess what I was just, what I was getting at was the businesses that I'm looking at on Flagler that are still there and operating, if they're the ones who actually incurred these fines.
And we have invoiced them several times, so.
Yeah, but I just wondered whether or not, I don't want to get on somebody who I think incurred the fine from a previous owner or something to that effect.
Not to my knowledge. These businesses, they've been there, they're the one who actually leased the parking spaces. So it's a little bit different than Mr. Yates.
So following up, sorry, Khalid, I didn't realize this would be as tedious as it is, but I'm delighted that we're surfacing these very fine points. What is the hammer? What is, you're sending invoice after invoice, and it's not a lien. How do you collect?
I wish I know. The only thing is collection agency. Now, we have some companies that they will do collect for you. The problem is we do a good collection. If we have it in a company, they take some of them between 10 to 20%. So really, I would end up paying a lot more than the 11,000. So the only thing is maybe, I don't know if legally I could attach it to the business tax receipts.
Yeah, so I'm looking to the city attorney. Is there any recourse, Madam City Attorney?
The only one I can think of is for the parking lease. We grandfathered those spaces that had been paid for into the parking lease program, so we could look at the loss of a grandfather status for those who did not pay up until the point that the program ended.
So we'll leave that in your staff's capable hands. That's, I get that a lien is a lien, and you're going to pay or you're done.
The lien is attached to the property, so if they ever sell the property, that's when they pay it. But if they don't sell the property, the lien would be just there and forever.
Except for the Mr. Yates situation, where it looks like he got the property, the lien didn't get satisfied?
There
right?
wasn't a lien on it.
Oh, there wasn't, okay.
Right,
Wasn't a
that's the
lien.
whole problem. We didn't file the liens
Got it.
that would have shown up in title search and purchase price.
Very good.
Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Okay, very good. All right.
I'm
so I
sorry
think
about this, Mayor, and it's been almost the past 3 days. All I did is just investigating about this item, so my apology.
No worries, no apology necessary. This is the business of the city, and you see the intent of the commission to make sure these I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So I admire the group for that. May I entertain a motion to approve item 7 Zulu?
Motion to approve 7Z.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, that concludes the consent agenda. Let's move on to administrative and new business. Item 8A, consider the recommendation to reject the proposal for RFP 27-3, CW, the lease of the city-owned property. I think this is the 120 Flagler property. City Manager, would you set this up, please?
As you recall, Mayor, the commission has directed the staff to put this building out for lease. We've done it. This is the second time we put it out for lease. They received one proposal, so I'm going to have the assistant city manager go through it, and then I will kind of elaborate after that. So, Ron, go ahead.
Thank you. As the city manager indicated, we received one proposal. It was from the company called White Whale Real Estate. They submitted a proposal of a $26 per square foot for the 1,652 square feet of interior leasable space for an initial term of 5 years with an additional 5-year option. That's the crux of their proposal. They agreed to the other terms of the triple net proposal in relation to paying taxes and insurance. As you indicated in Commissioner Martin, there was a concern in their proposal regarding insurability. My only response to that is the city currently has that property insured, and we believe that the proposed tenant would be able to obtain insurance for that property. The reason that the committee recommended denial on the proposal is that in the business plan submitted by White Whale, the committee was not satisfied with the level of financial information provided to the committee for review. Our concern was what capabilities does this company have to undertake, for all intents and purposes, a $50,000 to $60,000 a year obligation to the city in relation to taxes, insurance, and the lease payment. After the meeting of recommendation, the representatives of White Whale met with the city manager and I. We asked them to submit supplemental information for your consideration, as that the commission has the authority to override the committee's recommendation and approve the lease. I'll answer any questions.
Yes, we have several. Commissioner Martin.
Okay, I didn't ask about insurability. I asked for an explanation of their concerns. What is what, if anything, or why were they concerned about the termite methodology of handling it? What are they concerned about with the roof? So that's very different from insurability. It's asking the basis for their concerns.
Their concern related to those two items was in their ability to get insurance for the property.
Why would that have been an issue?
You would have to ask them why that would have been an issue.
Okay, well...
No, from your knowledge, Ron, do you know anything about the roof or the termites? Is that a problem?
We recently had the property tented. There was an infestation found on the property. We had it tented and treated. There's no active infestation at this point. I'm not certain as to what the date of the roof is in terms of the last time that a new roof was put on it, so I couldn't answer with specifics regarding the roof.
So we did not investigate when they raised those concerns. Is that accurate?
We took it under the premise that we have insurance on the property, so we felt that it would be common sense that any other body could get insurance on that property.
Taking us right back to my question, which wasn't about insurability, it was actually about those two conditions of the building. And I'd like to know that we check that out to see whether there's any validity in their concerns, regardless of insurability.
Well, their concerns on those two issues is related to the insurability.
And my concerns are about the condition of the building.
We didn't do an inspection. The company did not do an inspection on the property during the tour that was offered to those willing to do that. So
it didn't raise any concerns for our staff?
No, ma'am.
So square me away on this. On a triple net lease, for those that are not dunked in the leasing lexicon, that means that any of those expenses are on them, not on the city. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So they don't want to buy a pig in a poke. They want to make sure they got a property that's and a roof concern and a termite concern are legitimate concerns. Would you think about that? I mean, not on this property, but in real estate in general, those are two biggies.
Correct, but they had an allowable due diligence period before the submission of the bid. They chose not to take a tour of the property when we offered a tour of the property at that time. They submitted a bid based on what they felt was enough adequate information of their own comfort level with their due diligence, and submitted a proposal.
Yeah, to Commissioner Martin's point, wouldn't it be prudent for any bidder to want to know about that? So why would we not say, hey, and the roof and the termites are under control, and we stand behind it, or allow them an exemption of the triple net, say we have the roof and the termites?
Understand.
Could would there be any issue, because this is still an open issue for us, 120 Flagler, would there be any issue in having the maintenance ops take a look to try to understand where the white whale concerns were coming from, either for our maintenance of the building or for future proposed uses? Would there be any problem with that?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any other commissioners before we're enlightened by the city manager? I have a question for the city manager, not to lead the witness.
Yes, sir.
Now that you've had a conversation with the white whale folks, do you feel differently from what the staff was able to get out of their examination, the committee that examined the applicant? And the other is, I'm puzzled and perplexed. There's only one bidder, and where was the chorus of folks that were interested in this?
To answer your first question, I think I feel more confident, and after I met with them, that was the first time I meet with them. So what I gather, they've been in business or in the real estate business for 10 years, but they have their own business for the last 3 years on Canal Street. So financially, they're sound. I have questioned them about, what happened if the real estate business kind of dropped down? Would that be okay with them? And they indicated there's no problem. They have sufficient saving there to support their business. I asked a couple of realtors in town that they know, and they all spoke highly of them. So I have no issue with actually recommending for the commission to award the lease to them. As far as the roof, when we purchased the building, we inspected the roof at that time, and I think it was fine. Now, I think their concern is, I don't think they've seen anything in the roof, but a lot of these insurance companies today, if your roof is, I'm not sure how many years, but if it's that many years, then they require you, before they give you the insurance, to provide a new roof. So I think maybe that's, and he's in the audience, so if you want to ask him why his concern is, maybe he has a different concern. So if you don't mind, he's sitting in the audience. So Chris?
Without objection.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Chris, please.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'd like me to address you with, just go for it.
Yeah,
All right.
just, you heard the city manager explain that he has confidence in, after doing his research, and what, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, what were your concerns about the property?
So yes, just to kind of piggyback up for what you were just saying, with insurance companies right now, and I'm sure most of the homeowners in here can agree, roofs are a major issue in Florida in general as a whole. And anything over 10 years right now, even if your roof is a 20 to 25-year life, the insurance companies are seeing if it's above 10 years, they're wanting to start to give you issues and difficulties on wanting to say, all right, maybe you need a new roof or maybe it's time. So to the point of us not showing up to the non-mandatory open house, we're in houses all day. We see them all day. We know what's going on really kind of on the inside, but in order for us to get a insurance quote, we need to get what's called a 4-point inspection. And that would be a cost out of our pocket. That would not be a smart thing for us to do and spend money on if we knew we were not going to be awarded a lease. So we were just trying to do our best and work with the city in finding out a manageable way that we could all work something out together, make sure that we are able to get insurance and are able to uphold our end of the triple net. With that being said, too, the overall concern is just making sure that we're able to get insurance, and the city does have insurance on it, but they have insurance as a whole on all the city buildings, which makes things a little bit different when compared to one entity getting insurance for one building.
Anybody else with a question for the applicant? Vice Mayor?
I haven't, not for the applicant, no.
Well, okay, do you want to tell us anything else? You're still interested in the building?
Still interested in the building, a little bit more concerned after our public opening with the parking situation, but yeah, still interested in the building. My business partner and I, he's not here with us right now, he's on the computer world somewhere. He just passed his broker exam today, so he's just kind of relaxing a little bit. So we're native though, we're born and raised here. I've been in real estate for over a decade. Him and I have always been in sales and marketing in some capacity. But we love New Smyrna Beach. We are natives through and through. We want the best for New Smyrna, and we do that in every aspect we can. We feel like we're at every city event or anything that we can do to help support New Smyrna as a whole, and that's what we want to continue to do. And by allowing us to have the opportunity to try out a new building, get in there, that will allow us to just help New Smyrna out more as a whole and just continue to develop and build more community relationships.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming up. Any more, city manager, square me away on this. I believe that if there's a pre-existing condition on a building, triple net, meaning they own the problem, is not invoked. I'm not an expert, but I think that's the case. Therefore, the insurance companies should know that. And so I would imagine that we would be able to navigate White Whale getting insurance by the insurance company's adequate knowledge of a triple net lease means anything that evolves while you're in rentership of the building is your responsibility, but pre-existing conditions are the responsibility of the city. Am I right? Am I right on that one?
I guess you are right, I would say.
I don't know for sure, but I think.
I think you are right.
We'd have to research it. We would need to work on the lease anyway to bring back to commission.
Really good. Okay, those are the fine points. Any other? And so, just for clarity, for those of us that are interested, your statement is you would, unlike the proposal by the staff to reject, it is your opinion that we should accept this bid.
I think after meeting with the two owners of the business, I think I feel more confident to support to award the lease to them.
That's what I thought I heard you say. Okay. Are there any, yes, ma'am.
I do. So on January 1st of this year, I chose not to renew my real estate license through the New Smyrna Beach MLS, and I did not pay my real estate dues. My broker actually moved my license to referral status. Why am I telling you this? Is because I have an outstanding referral with White Wells, so I'm going to recuse myself. I have filed paperwork 8B on this. So,
Got it. So
I'm not going to vote.
you're going to recuse yourself and not vote on this? Okay, very good. Vice Mayor?
So I have a question for the city attorney. All we're doing is approving their proposal, but not a final lease that will come to us at some point in time. Is that correct?
It would be selecting them as the winner of the RFP. And then coming back to you would be a lease you would also have to vote on.
Okay.
Appreciate that clarification. Commissioner McGurk?
We accept this proposal as written tonight. Is that essentially having you draw up a lease agreement with these exact terms? Or when would there be a negotiation on the actual proposal of the terms? That's my first question.
So, depending on the direction from commission, if you want to draft it up with the terms that were set forth in the proposal, I can do that. If you want to negotiate, you do have that ability.
And is that to be done now, tonight, or
No,
later?
no, you could set a public meeting for any negotiation if you want to grant that authority to either the city manager or a member of the dais.
So I'm asking a lot of this, not only for myself, but also for the applicant. So the applicant understands the process of what's going on tonight. It can be a little confusing and technical. So tonight is not necessarily agreeing to the proposal, because his proposal has terms. We're agreeing to move forward in negotiations. Is that a better terminology?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from any commissioner? Any last words of wisdom, sir?
No, I think you have to, because the staff recommendation is to reject it. So you have to reject the staff recommendation and then make another motion, correct?
I understand. Okay, we understand the protocol. We've done it a couple times now. We're in there. All right. So I would entertain a motion to consider the recommendation of the staff for rejecting the proposal of the RFP 2723.
So move.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second.
Discussion.
And
So
discussion.
a yes vote is going to be voting it down, because I'm agreeing with staff's opinion to not accept it. I just want that clear.
A yes vote carries this. The deal is over. They are rejected. A no vote means we do not agree with the city staff, and then it's back open.
Okay. I'm glad I
So,
asked.
so that's great. This is really good to have out. All right, so if you vote yes, you will vote to reject, which is what the city staff had proposed prior to the city manager's insertion of his opinions and his research. If we vote to reject it, we will start again and vote again, should there be a motion, to accept the proposal of the RFP. Okay? Just to stick in Robert's rules. Okay, is there a motion to reject?
Yeah, I gave the motion. I think we have a
Motion and a second.
Yep.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Hartman.
No.
Commissioner Martin.
No.
Commissioner Perrine.
She's abstained.
Oh, that's correct. Thank you. Commissioner McGurk.
No.
Mayor Cleveland.
No. The motion has failed. And now, the chair would entertain a motion.
Make a motion that staff proceeds with the RFP 2723 CW lease for the property at 1020 Flagler?
Yep, you got it.
Second.
120 Flagler.
120 Flagler, it's actually RFP 2723 CW. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
May
Yes,
I
ma'am.
ask, with the terms set forth in the proposal, or would you like to delegate the authority to negotiate to the manager?
I just want to move forward with the lease negotiations. So
Okay.
that's up to staff.
Okay, so we'll
You
delegate.
and him and
Okay.
Ron or whoever else.
Well, it's not about that, but I think it's, the RFP has some terms in it and some conditions. So I think what the city attorney is asking, you want us to start negotiating with them based on what's in the RFP, or you want to have different conditions? Is that what the question is?
Correct. Just for purposes of, we will have to publicly notice the meeting where we sit and talk about. What I can do is draft the lease per the manager's direction, meet with them, and that meeting will be open to the public.
Can we draft it so that we bring it back to the commission?
After we meet with them publicly, it'll come back to the commission for your approval.
Okay.
Because the intent is that they know that the proposal's approved, and then they can do their due diligence on looking for insurance and things like that. And they should have an idea, do their 4-point inspection, if they're actually going to spend dollars for that, and then they'll know where they are, and they may or may not use that as a negotiation tool or whatever, but, you know, at least it goes forward. Otherwise, we can bring it down here and use it for office space.
As I understand the motion, it is to accept the bid on the RFP 2723, allow the city staff to begin a negotiation. We have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Motion carries. And now we'll move on to 8B, the traffic calming improvement. I believe our city engineer is here, or his representative. Do you have a report, sir? Thank you, Kyle.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, we are here to review and approve 3 separate requests for traffic calming devices along roadways, which have received support from the adjoining property owners in concurrence with the traffic calming manual being at or greater than 75% approval. I think we can all agree that we've seen more congestion on our roadways, these corridors, along with others in the city, particularly residential and local roadways that seem to be realizing more than the anticipated average annual daily trips. This creates not only a nuisance, but a potential safety condition for motorists and pedestrians, hence the need for some type of traffic calming improvements. And when I met with representatives from each one of these roadways, believe me, they wanted more improvements than what is being presented here this evening. So this is the basic improvements that is recommended by staff. And with that, we can move forward with the individual streets. We have that, Kelly? I'm going to start with Fairway Drive. Okay, you can see this is a bird's eye view of Fairway Drive. This was actually brought to our attention in 2020 prior to the adoption of our traffic calming manual. Although we did consider the ballots as still being valid. This section of roadway goes from Wayne Avenue all the way to Fairgreen Avenue. And the city did, at one point in time, conduct some passive PD enforcement. I believe I worked with Lieutenant Severance at the time. And this did work for a short period of time. But unfortunately, shortly thereafter, the motorists reverted back to their habits, and we continue to see the same issues along this corridor. I'll just pan through here real quick. Maybe not real quick. Okay, here we're at Wayne Avenue, heading northbound. As you can see, the roadway itself there's relatively no obstructions. It's just a straight shot. It's very level, it's flat. The lanes are fairly wide, probably 11 to 12 feet including the curb line. And you really don't encounter anything in the roadway until you get up to Birdie Street. There is whoops, just passed it. There is a small landscape island. You can see it right there at Birdie Street intersection, which does help some of the traffic calming. So what we are recommending in order to reduce speed for northbound and southbound motorists is to install a speed table at the Aqua Court intersection, which is about mid-span from that landscape island to Wayne Avenue. And this would also facilitate the continued use from emergency rescue vehicles. One thing I failed to mention in the agenda in my report are the costs, which seem to control all my projects. The speed table, which is recommended, it's about 18 feet wide, and there's about a 10-foot plateau on top, and it's only about 3 inches high. So it's something that's manufactured and delivered to us. Other cities have used it. The cost, including the fasteners and the adhesive, is about $3,200. And then staff would then install the device itself. So it's about $3,200, which our maintenance operations director has budgeted funds for next fiscal year. So I would suggest that it be implemented next fiscal year using those funds. Okay. So now we can move on to the next roadway corridor. Which hopefully this is it. Should be Gibraltar Boulevard. Oh, wrong. Okay, great. Gibraltar Boulevard. This is located in the Coastal Woods subdivision, which is a relatively new neighborhood, although we're receiving an array of concerns about Gibraltar Boulevard itself is acting more like a collector than it was originally designed through the site plan subdivision process to be just a local roadway. We looked at this roadway section, I think as previously mentioned by Mr. Fike. We looked at it from the Sugar Mill Drive intersection to the south all the way to Pioneer Trail. We particularly looked at, there's a horizontal curve right as you come into Symes Street. And Symes Street currently has it has one stop condition. It is on the minor roadway approach. So what we are recommending is to make this an all-way stop condition. Okay, and this will facilitate, there is a Volusia County school bus stop. It does accommodate all grades, elementary, middle, and high school. And it would also deter the cut-through traffic from Pioneer Trail to Sugar Mill Drive. The cost to implement this can be done with our current inventory, so it's relatively nominal, and we can do the improvements in-house with regard to the signage and the stop bar. The third roadway section let me get to that, is Faulkner Street. This, this roadway run is from Wayne Avenue to US 1. And it has shown strong support from the adjacent property owners due to it being a cut-through. It seems a lot of motorists are using it from the North Causeway to get to US 1 and to slow speeds as they try to enjoy this corridor and the mobility along this roadway. This area is an established neighborhood where residents expect to safely access this roadway in a manner of a residential district. So what we are recommending in this case, again, is a speed table at Eleanor Avenue, which would be similar to the one for Coastal Woods. We are also recommending some pedestrian improvements, being a high-back curb at Wayne Avenue, which would facilitate pedestrian crossing at Wayne Avenue and Faulkner. So the cost for this would be the $3,200 for the speed table and about $2,500 for the curb work. So it's just under $6,000 for overall improvements. So when we looked at all three of these locations, we looked at the criteria within our manual traffic calming handbook. And there's basically 7 guidelines. The 3 big ones are the traffic speed, traffic volume, and the cut-through traffic, all count for 20 points apiece. And they weighed very heavily on all 3 of those. Of course, we look at the crashes per mile, and we look at the schools and sidewalks. So if there's one sidewalk, you get 5 points. If there's sidewalks on both sides, you get no points. And there's other considerations. If there's a high observance of, say, motorist pedestrian conflicts, there's other considerations that would be an additional 10 points. So they all scored fairly high under those criteria. So based on that, staff's making these recommendations. I'd be more than happy to take any comments or questions you may have at this time.
Great. Thank you for your briefing here. Is there any comment or question from a commissioner? I recognize Commissioner McGirt.
Thank you, Mayor. Kyle, thank you for the information. Couple of questions. I think the first question that is for all 3. Have the people who live around where the calming stop sign or the speed table is going to be put down, have they given their blessing to this? Because they're the ones that are obviously going to be affected by the noise of a car stopping and then restarting again.
I agree. That's a good comment. I've met with representatives from each part of these communities, and they have indicated that they will approve these particular devices. I have not had a meeting, like a little community meeting or a sit-down public meeting with all the residents per se, just the representatives from each one of these roadway sections.
So I think my familiarity is with Faulkner. That's the one I've dealt with for years now. When we put a stop sign on Faulkner, we got a sign off from the people who lived on all 4 sides of that stop sign. We have a tendency to fix one problem and create another.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we don't put something in for $6,000 and then we have neighbors who are actually living next to this upset about it. The second question I have is, are you going to put the speed table on Faulkner north or south of Eleanor?
North.
Okay. So what's happened is Eleanor has become the cut-through now.
It is.
And so they make that left turn and they race down that street because they weren't able to do it before. Now, it's funny, I myself have found that I go to the light now at Wayne and make a left at Wayne simply because it actually works better. But I question whether or not there's not a lot of people who live on Eleanor at that location. I've spoken to Hillary many times. I told her about that. I suggested she should talk with those neighbors, and she said everybody was very happy with that. So the unintended consequence is we're creating a cut through now. We're getting rid of one, but creating another one. So I support this on Faulkner. I just wanted to be brought to your attention that this could become an issue in the future, and we may have to move that to the south side of Eleanor on Faulkner, depending on how extensive that becomes a cut through. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other
Comment?
comments? Yes, ma'am.
Please. Okay, so I see you're doing a neighborhood study for the Faulkner because those side streets also have the clicks down. I don't know what you call that, but you're tracking traffic. You guys created a problem when you did the one-way street on Orange. You prevented all those wrecks on Orange and Washington, but you created everybody flying down my narrow street. So now it's not a ton of traffic, but before we had zero traffic. The only traffic we ever had before was the people that lived on that street, which is probably a dozen houses at most. So my concerns are my neighbors have approached me asking that we make, because you made Orange Street a one-way, now they want you to make those side streets one-way. But I can't speak for all of them. We're going to have a neighborhood meeting on this because I don't know what it's going to take for that, but we got an email today from a neighbor wanting it. I know the neighbor across the street wants it. I reached out to a couple of people I know. They want it, and then I've heard one no. But I haven't done a petition. It's not my duty to go door knocking because, for one thing, I just have one car, so it doesn't bother me, but the neighbor across the street constantly gets parking tickets for parking in a street that we don't have parking. We have a very narrow street, and they do fly down Murray and Mary now that it's one way on Orange. So we are going to have to do some type of public meeting to find out what the options are for those side streets, because it's going to be another situation just like Magnolia. When you put the calming down and it went shifted to Riverside, people will shift that every single time. So now we've got the shift, and I live off of Faulkner.
Right, understood, thank you.
I'm concerned about this patchwork approach. I think we need to set a tone for the entire city that says any residential, city-owned residential street, 2 lanes with houses on both sides, 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, end of story, and to set the tone for the city. Because we are just moving problems around, and if people think they can go fast on Street A after we put a traffic calming device on Street B, we need to make it clear that this is a city that respects our residential areas. And we as a commission do have the authority to request an ordinance be written that would state simply, city streets, 2 lanes, houses on both sides, 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, end of story. And I'd hope the commission would consider that.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. I appreciate the city engineer putting his head on this, and I echo all of the 3 commissioners' comments. And I want to say we have a history, which is spotted when we did the Magnolia traffic calming. Kyle, you remember that we got a hue and cry from the Riverside folks, and they said, well, me too, and it was after the fact. My theory is, as similar to what Commissioner Martin said, like water, traffic will run to the least point of resistance and keep going. And so there's a little bit of an enforcement arm of this thing, so I'm glad the chief is hearing all this and like to entertain his comments on this. The enforceability of this, and have you already, that's a long setup, all right, sorry. Have you already considered the second order effects? Have you already kind of said, all right, just like 2 of the commissioners said, I know the area really well, let me tell you what's going to happen. This street is going to get slammed at this street. If you haven't thought of that based on your experience at Riverside and Magnolia, we should be thinking about those things, because you're going to do it all over again when the next street comes up and says, hey, you've just created a problem for me. And so I, like Commissioner Martin, favor a systems approach to how you're doing it. I'm not sure we can handle it all over the city. Maybe, boy, I like that idea, but I'm not sure we're there yet. But have you already, in determining we're going to get ready to vote on these 3 places, if you haven't considered the second order effects yet, please let us know. If you have, please tell us what your results are.
Sure, that's at the forefront of our concern, is where are you going to divert the traffic? So with regard to Faulkner Street, we were trying to keep the major volume and truck traffic, particularly on US 1. So let's keep it there where it's more of an arterial roadway. Similar with Gibraltar, which is the only residential street throughout that subdivision that interconnects Sugar Mill and Pioneer Trail. Let's keep them on Pioneer Trail and Sugar Mill Drive. So there is no other alternative to cut through those particular neighborhoods. Fairway Drive it's kind of the corridor from US 1. I believe there's even signage to cut through Turnbull and US 1 and go down to Enterprise and Pioneer Trail. So that is the only cut through. That is the only north-south corridor to get from US 1 to Enterprise. So yes, there is no other practical means where traffic's going to be diverted or this is going to make an impression on adjacent roadways.
So I think more complex than my brain can handle right this second. What I think I heard you say was something about getting rid of the trucks and keeping the trucks off there. That was one of the intents. Did I have that right?
Correct.
Why would you not do a no trucks sign to do that if that was as simple as it sounds?
We need an ordinance to enforce that, don't
Correct.
we?
Yeah, you have to do a truck route study, that type of thing. But this is more than just trucks.
Okay.
This is just cut through traffic. And
Okay.
that scored very high on all 3 locations.
Okay. Sir.
So my question, not necessarily to you, but to Khalid, is are any of these streets on our paving street list to be paved this year or next year? I mean, I would hate to put these down and then come tearing them up in a year's time to repave the road. I don't think so. I know Gibraltar's not. To Commissioner Martin's concern, Gibraltar is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit throughout the whole street. It doesn't stop them. So that's the problem. To Valley's point, the first thing I did when Mr. Fike called me was I gave him the traffic manual. I said, here's the manual, here's the process, you do the work. And he did, and so that's how we got to where we are now. So it's just not a neighbor here or a neighbor there. We adopted the manual because of the problems that we had on Magnolia and Live Oak, and we adopted the manual so that we would have a process to go through to do these evaluations. So when anybody asks me about any of those, here is the manual, you follow the manual, and I'll help you as much as I can, but if you don't meet the criteria, it's not going to be considered. So I appreciate everything that Kyle's done to work through all these problems, but my only concern is whether or not, number one is, are these in line to be paved in the near future? And then I'm not sure if Gibraltar has actual painted crosswalks. If we put the 3-way stop sign in, I think that staff should go ahead and paint a crosswalk also, so that the kids, we kind of get the kids into the mindset that this is where you need to cross, not behind the bus, whatever. If we have a designated crosswalk in that area, just simple lines on the street, then they certainly would be more in line to cross at that intersection in front of wherever the bus is or whatever. So those are my only comments.
Vice
Thank
Mayor,
everybody for all their hard work on this.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, we did a crosswalk there. I'm not sure if it's an exact location, but the crosswalk itself is not a problem. But to address some of the issues, some of the comments that we were made here, it's to do a comprehensive study. I think it's an excellent idea. The question becomes the cost. When we did the one in Magnolia, just to kind of give you an idea, I mean, just a little area cost about, I think at the time was either $12,000 or $24,000. Because in order to do a complete study. I mean, you need to do traffic analysis, speed study, and, you know, our speed study is just based on putting the, you know, the speed counters in one of the streets, but we're not capable of doing a whole comprehensive area. So I just want to make sure that we would love to do that. I would love to do that for the whole city. The 25 mile per hour, I think Commissioner Martin and I, we discussed that. Here are the two issues. Staff cannot support a 25 mile per hour if the study does not support that. The commission has, as she mentioned, has the authority to do that. But I don't know the legality of it. If the police officer pulls someone in a 25, if we have a sign and there is no study supports that, I'm not sure if the ticket will be valid. Because I know in courts, the first question, if somebody is challenging, they say, what was the study done on the street? Yes, what was the study result? 30 miles per hour or 35 miles per hour. But the commission has the authority. But again, I just want to kind of warn you, a lot of the stop signs in the city do not meet, they're not warranted. And so it becomes confusing and it becomes a dangerous issue. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that, but you still have the authority to do 25, you have the authority to do 5 if you want to.
And my point, of course, is, I mean, there are these anomalies, like 25 miles an hour on North Peninsula and 30 miles on South Peninsula, 25 on North Pine, but 30 on South Pine. And how many of us drive this street saying, okay, this quarter mile is this speed limit, and the next quarter mile is that speed limit, just to have that consistent base, and also, I believe, to set the tone for the city, that we are a town that does not like speeders. So I think it has two impacts, consistency and setting the tone for the people who live here and visit here.
One more
Yes, ma'am.
follow-up on that. So I think it's going to have to be case by case, because I do appreciate the process and the traffic calming. The Faulkner people have already done that. But our situation isn't speed. So it's already 25 miles an hour. What our situation is now we have people driving down our road. That's a very, very narrow street. So it's considering one way with that whole calming. I don't know how you would do that. That's something that doesn't, it's not addressed in that.
Just to be clear, I am not suggesting that this
No, I
is
know.
a fix-all.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that we
So-
should not go ahead with this. I am suggesting a policy for the city that will take care of some issues without onerous staff time.
Any other questions for the city engineer? Is there an enforcement, I'm motioning to the chief, is there an enforcement leg that is a second order effect to what we're doing by putting in these material barriers to speed and traffic? And does that cause a different problem or different challenge for the department?
I think the short answer is yes. And I don't think there's really a way out of that. You know, one thing I like that we do as a city staff, with the direction of the commission, is that everything we do now is based on data. So the traffic calming manual is something that Kyle and I hand that thing out on pretty much a daily basis as a way for citizens to start a conversation with their neighbors, determine if it really is a factor on their street, a shared vision, then bring that through city engineering. And then, as a reminder to the commission, it does come back over to us. We do try through speed enforcement or traffic enforcement to see if we can mitigate it like we did on Fairgreen, but at times it is like whack-a-mole. So we'll go in with our strategic resources, but then we'll move on to South Myrtle or South Saxon, and then people again are racing through those streets. So, you know, there has to be a way to get to a endpoint based on data, to make these decisions. But to your point, Mayor, no, I think that, if you put up a stop sign, they're going to go around it, like Commissioner Preen is saying. And I think that's why, as a police department, we're becoming more and more agile. Our traffic enforcement is really based on strategy. So we have at any given time 5 to 7 traffic priorities that we're throwing all of our resources at. But the following week, based on public comment here, input from the city manager on what we're seeing in terms of traffic crashes, we update that list and then we move on to the next 7 priorities. So I don't think there's a way around that. I don't think there's an easy answer to this problem, but I assure you that if that does happen, if it becomes the next 2 side streets, then we'll address those.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. Appreciate your testimony. There's no more discussion. Is there a motion to approve the proposed improvements, the following locations: Sugar Mill and Pioneer Drive, Faulkner Street between Wayne Avenue and US 1, and Fairway Drive between Fairgreen Avenue and Wayne Avenue?
Make a motion to approve the traffic calming improvements as outlined by staff.
Very good. Motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion carries. Very good. We have a second reading. This is an ordinance. 9A is the item. Consider a public hearing to consider the approval of a historic tree removal for the property located at 2376 State Road 44. The Florida Healthcare is the applicant, number 1-23. I see Senior Planner Jake Baker there. We'll hear your report now, sir.
Yes, we have an application for Florida Healthcare to remove 11 historic trees from a currently vacant lot. As you're looking at that, it's like a bird's eye view on the screen there, looking kind of towards the south. There's Oliver to the west, and then you have Timberlane to the east with the Verizon store would be to the east of the proposed Florida Healthcare. Site itself, 3.04 acres. It is part of the Timberlane PUD. As I mentioned, it's Verizon to the east. You got single-family residential to the south, Chevy dealership across 44. And to get into this a little bit, we have a definition of what a historic tree is in our land development regulations. Basically, it's any tree, any type of tree, exclusive of those found on the Florida Exotic Pest Plant Council list, 36 inches in diameter at breast height or greater, or Florida State Championship tree. None of this. This is basically all trees that are 36 inches in diameter or greater that are on this site. You have authority to grant removal of historic trees. Historic trees in all zoning districts shall be removed only upon a tree removal permit granted by the City Commission at a quasi-judicial public hearing after finding that the evidence presented is more compelling for the removal of the historic tree than for it to remain. The petitioner has to, wishing to obtain a permit, must show, there's only a couple of criteria that really apply, the tree is dead, diseased, structurally unsound, or severely injured, such that the tree is likely to die within 2 years, or other extraordinary circumstances or hardship where the applicant has demonstrated that no other feasible option exists to preserve the tree. They also have to supply a tree evaluation report by an ISA certified arborist, which they have done. In the PUD agreement, there's actually, this is unusual because we have our own standards, but this one's built into their PUD. There's a tree score. Basically, there's 0, the tree is dead, dying, diseased. Now, some of these trees in this that are graded 0 are already lying on their sides on the ground. So, and it's like more of a log than a tree at this point. So there's some zeros. 1 is it's poor shape. Existing trees that have multiple leader trunks, severe damage or disease to the trunk. These are kind of mostly trees that you really wouldn't want to stand next to for the most part. They're not in the best of shape. 2 below average. It's a healthy tree with 2 or more leader trunks, kind of where they're joined at the base. Trees that have poor limb arrangement and have numerous interior limbs. Basically, these are significant gaps within the overall canopy. They're pretty sparse. An average, it's a 3. Healthy tree with a single leader trunk and no more than 1 secondary leader. That is 50% of the main diameter. It's still got some life to it. 4 is good. And then you also have a 5, which is like an excellent shape. None of the trees on the site are 5. There is a 4 that they are proposing to keep. So here's the layout of the site. As you can see, I'll start on the Oliver side. You've got up in the corner there, closer to 44, you've got a 1. The one that we were recommending to keep is the one below that tree 101. It's a 3. It's average, and it's a water oak. In the south of that, you've got some 0s. As you know, it's closer to 44 up there. There is a 4 scored, and then there's also a 3 scored that they're keeping. And then in the general parking lot areas, you notice you've got some 1s, some 0s. There is a 2 in there. And basically the bulk of the parking area and the building site, the trees are below average to completely dead. I kind of run this quickly through. I'm trying to do as quickly as possible for everybody here. But a quick breakdown of the trees. Tree 101, that was the one that we had talked about keeping. It's a 3. It was considered to be in good condition. It's a water oak. We also have tree 102. Again, it's a 1. If you can see it, there's not a whole lot to it right there. It's that thicker one you see with looks like some moss hanging off of it, not a lot of branches. 103, you can see it's basically a log. It was scored as 0. 104, again, there's not a whole lot to it. It's a 1, not any limbs left to speak of. 108, it has since fallen over and is now laying on the ground, but that is the tree in front of you there. 109, again, it's taller, but that is a 1 as well. It's in poor condition. 110, this is a 2. This was, I think, more in the middle of the lot, but not in the best of shape. Below average. It says the cavity goes down towards the base of the tree, and it has the 2 codominant stems, which basically they rot at that. That's also a water oak, which aren't as long-lived as live oaks. Tree 111, a 0. Again, it's basically sticking out of the ground. 112, there it is. It's already laying on the ground. 113, this also is below average. It is a 2, and it has the codominant stems, which kind of rot out, although this was a live oak. And tree 14, basically it's just a big stick sticking out of the ground. It's scored a 1. 115, again, it's a 0, and I agree with that. It's just basically a stick at this point sticking out of the ground with no real limbs or vegetation on it. When we break down, you notice that chart, it talked about cross-sectional inches, and it had like a 0, had 0 mitigation. You got a 2, it was 5%, and then 3 and up is 10% mitigation. 10% is kind of how the city treats all trees. So breaking down the number of trees, the square cross-sectional inches of all the trees, it actually works out to 136 replacement trees, 2.5 inches in diameter. I don't think they're going to get that on there. However, they can put in larger trees as mitigation. I did get a phone call and an email today from a neighbor south of this site, and she wasn't too keen on seeing her trees by her being removed. I think she kind of understands it is a commercial site, and she did ask maybe we could condition something to this, that along that southern property line, if mitigation trees could be larger in size, it's already a lot more mature than your standard little 2.5 inch in diameter, 9 foot tall tree. We also have, back to the tree that we wanted to keep, if possible. It is close to the sidewalk, and it is close to the driveway entrance. Now, one of that woman's concerns was, well, if they did shift the driveway, it's just going to be that much closer into the neighborhood. And, I certainly see your point. I don't think it would really be able to shift all that much, being that the retention areas back there and there are trees. But that was her concern, and as I mentioned, this is scored a 3, which is considered to be in good condition. Staff recommends that the other trees be removed, and tree 101, as mentioned, try to be saved. You have any questions for me?
Any questions for Senior Planner Commissioner McGurk?
Thank you. Just a quick question. I think you've said 11 trees are requested to be removed. Does that include the one that's on the ground and tree
yes,
one?
those are part of the request. So really, when it comes down to like living functional trees, you've got that has any chance of having any life beyond the next year or two, you're only looking at probably the 2 and the 3 that are on there. So, like I said, most of these are, it's more of a removal of a stump.
The point I'm trying to make is the appearances we're going to remove, we're going to kill 11 historic trees. But I'm looking at just a literal trunk sticking out of the ground and a tree on the ground dead. We need to figure out a better way to present this because those two should not be considered historic tree removals.
This was based on the arborist report, and that's what I have to work with.
We need a common sense report.
Yeah.
But, so I appreciate the report, and I appreciate trying to save any tree that is at least a 3. Anything you guys can do to keep the development from taking down any tree that you think they can work with. I have a lot of confidence in you all. I know how much we all love our trees here in this town. We've put a lot of effort into it, so appreciate the work you guys are putting into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGurk. Commissioner Martin?
I just have a question. Why the driveway is coming out onto Oliver as opposed to onto 44?
Well, I think actually how the PUD is working, that you're not supposed to cut out onto there. It goes Oliver, and then it would be cutting through the Verizon lot to cut out on the other side over there to Timberland.
Yeah, and I'm looking, you know how residential it is back there. And so any way we could avoid traffic being encouraged to go on to Oliver or those residential streets, I think would provide less community uproar in the future.
I understand the community uproar, and I remember very clearly the most recent proposal that was on this site. This one would be much more of a 7 to 5, 8 to 5 type of operation with a Saturday hour, so certainly way less of an impact than others. But I think no one wants to see their patch of woods blocking 44 removed.
Well, I just don't believe we can ever make major decisions based on an existing owner or usage, because usages change and owners change. And so let me rephrase the question. Is there any way we can make the driveway go out onto 44?
You'd have to amend the whole PUD agreement.
Which, of course, I have no problem with, but I can understand others might. So.
Commissioner Perrine?
So clarify for me, you had 2 that were rated 4 that you're saving, or how many are you saving?
There are 2, I'll pull that site plan back up here. There are 2 that are on the north side closer to 44 that are being saved. There is a 3, I'm almost there.
It's the ones in green on the site plan.
Yeah, right there. There is a 3 water oak, and then there is a 4 water oak.
So you are saving the 4s. Are you wanting to remove any of the higher levels, the 4s, and are they going to be mitigated?
Oh yeah, they're all mitigated. That was that whole breakdown where we do the cross-sectional inches. Okay. So this number that's coming out requires, it was 136 2.5-inch trees. So how that works is, I don't think they're going to be able to squeeze that many trees on the site. So you go with a larger tree, and a 2.5 inch is this, but you get a 6-inch, the cross-sectional works out to like 6 or 7 of those fitting on there. So they put some bigger trees in, and then the rest of it, if they can't get it on there, they would have to make a payment to the city's tree mitigation fund, which gives them, the city, the ability to plant trees elsewhere.
So do they have to mitigate the dead ones as well?
That scores as a 0. There it is right there. See a 0% of mitigation to 0. And then the 1s and the 2s, which are below average and poor, have a 5% mitigation. So.
Any other questions? Yes, Vice Mayor.
So Jay, can you go back to the tree number 104? Because there's something I want to point out about this, not this particular tree, but just something.
Yeah.
So if you see to the left of it, you see the high power lines that run along Oliver?
Yes.
You see the high tension power lines that run right along Oliver? They also run right along tree number 101, which is one that you want to save. I understand your interest in trying to save it, but I'm of the mindset that if in fact at some point in time it may be a liability, with the utilities involved, the sidewalk, and then additionally with trying to move that driveway further south, which further encroaches into the neighborhood, I'm not in favor of that. So, I think that's something that, because I went out there and looked at this, that you have to also consider that the tree that we're trying to save is 105, but yet all the zero water oaks were 36 or 40 inches. So this is a much older tree, so its life expectancy is probably not going to be that long. I love trees, but sometimes younger, smaller trees are better than old, dying trees.
Yeah. Water oaks tend to live about as long as people, and they reach a certain point, and they start to fall apart.
Yes. So I just wanted to bring that out as a point of interest.
Okay, so we have a very good report. I don't have any real questions for you other than one that Commissioner McGurk brought up, and maybe it's directed toward the city manager. What I heard Jake say was he's got the instruction or the rule book that he's got, and we're counting trees that are stumps, we're counting trees that are already dead and lying on their sides. And so do we own this, the guiding document that he goes by, and why would we not make it something reasonable?
Well, I think
dead trees are dead trees versus making them count them.
This was specific to this PUD where they came up with this work. They worded this zeros in there. So, I think if I was going out personally, I would, if it was laying on its side with no life on it, I think I would have just excluded it from my count. But it's in there,
So that was the arborist decision to include the trees laying on the ground?
Yes.
Not the cities?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else for me?
Yeah, I'm not clear. Why is it that they get to decide what is included and what's not? Why isn't that in our instruction?
Well, it's based on the tree survey that they've done. So what happened is the developer or the property owner will hire a surveyor, and based on our requirement in the LDR, they'll show every tree on site based on a certain size. So I think it's
Dead or alive?
Alive. So, but what happened, I think he showed, I don't know, I don't think the LDR, as far as I remember, I don't think it requires you to show the one on the ground.
Yeah, but yeah, they have their tree score data table, existing trees that are dead, dying, and or diseased. So, I could see if it's dead and still 20 foot tall, but I would personally, if it's laying on the ground, I would not have included it myself.
Yeah. I guess it's the latitude that I don't like, where some you can, some you can't.
Needless to say, there is no mitigation required for it, and it's just kind of.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much for your report there. Appreciate that. Public hearing is now open. Are there any citizens who wish to speak? Please approach the podium at this time. You'll
We have
have
an applicant too.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Good evening. For the record, Michael Woods with Cobb Cole. I represent the applicant, and I appreciate your time tonight. I will be as quick as you need me to be, or as thorough as you need me to be as well with this, but I want to address some of the questions that got raised regarding just how those dead, dying, disease trees got identified. And good, excellent. So let me back this up one. This is a project, for some of you who are new on the dais, or maybe were aware of the previous project that came through here. Obviously, I think staff and the city is much happier with the office usage coming in and being proposed. To Commissioner Martin's question specifically on the access on 44, that's a twofold factor. That is a factor that was put into the PD when that was originally adopted 10, 15 years ago, but it also follows through with the thought process of limiting the driveway access on State Road 44 from a traffic flow perspective and not jamming up additional on and off onto the roadway. Not necessarily germane to the conversation that we're having here today, but I wanted to address it because that was really a huge issue with the previous potential utilization Little less so here, other than when we talk about the driveway location at the end of my presentation. And I do want to also kind of bring to your point, or bring to your attention, in that PD, this was the PD that was originally adopted when the Verizon was built. And under that PD also contemplated that this parcel that we are developing a single building on contemplated up to 2 individual buildings. What you're going to see, or what you've seen with our site plan, and we've been working on this, I checked my email. My first kind of call in on this project was a year ago last week. And so we've been working very diligently with staff. There's a lot of moving parts, but really working to ensure that the site not only takes into consideration the historic trees, but you're accommodating a lot of masters. We've got our buffering and setback requirements off of 44, visual corridor issues, very important there. We were also hyper aware of the residences to the south. And so when you see that site plan, we've pulled away the construction in the building away from the southern boundary and more toward the center of the project. And when we show the site plan, you will see us kind of trying to have condensed ourselves to the middle belt line of the property running east-west, which is unfortunately where most of the historic trees were identified. When we look at these trees, and again, if you have any specific concerns about the ones that staff recommends for approval, happy to get into it. But even some of the ones that are on the outskirts, that you would look at the picture and say, well, why can't we save that one? Those tended to be the 0s and the 1s. And then specifically on the question about why are we having a dead tree there? The process, the staff report that you have in there is a summary generated by staff, but the overall tree report that was submitted by our ISA architects was initially conducted in April 2022 and then was updated after hurricanes and whatnot. You keep the consistent numbering, and out of pure sense of transparency, because we know it's New Smyrna Beach and you all love your trees very much, there was no way we were going to take any chances whatsoever about, well, what about this one or that one? So full transparency on there. Ultimately, it works out because the way that the mitigation is accounted for. Just going very quickly here, like I said, can you see? Yeah. Bringing that through here, you can see that we're going through the middle third of the property, predominantly is where those trees are. The only tree that is really being impacted, other than the tree in question number 1, that is a 2 or greater, is smack dab in the middle of our proposed building. It's one of those unavoidable kind of situations. When you look at the staff report, the condition isn't all that great. And I do want to point to 107 and 105, those are the green ones, and that did require a modification of our parking, both a unit count, and then you can see kind of some of the bump outs that we put in there to try to give those trees the best chance to survive moving forward. This was provided very well by city staff. The tree in question that we just kind of want to talk to you about, and Commissioner Hartman kind of talked on it a little bit, is this tree 101, and this is right by our driveway. It's scored as a 3, it's a 51, but it is a water oak, so you kind of have to balance that of what its life expectancy is. We obviously don't want to cut down any more trees than we have to, and we want to avoid as much as we can. And staff's recommendation touches on the fact that by taking this tree down, that incurs a cost to us for the mitigation. But we have some practical concerns about why we just kind of think that maybe we should revisit this and allow for this one to be removed as well. I asked our engineer who's in the audience with us to just come up with this schematic, and that shows that radius circle is the drip line that we are impacting. As you can see, totality, that tree is going to be hit pretty well. It's almost like a gaping Pac-Man kind of mouth there. But the reality is that the impact by the location of the driveway is the 2 green colors, the dark green and the light green. But by moving the driveway farther to the south, and therefore a little bit, and it's not much, but it is moving closer to the neighbors, and every little inch kind of counts there, all that you're going to be removing the impact from is the little green wedge, because you still have the sidewalks that are going to continue through there. The red coloring is for swale. Obviously, we are very aware of the neighborhood and wanting to make sure there is copious amounts of stormwater management, so it's reasonable to assume that if the driveway shifts down, that swale will continue down along the boundary, and you're still going to be severing through that root line with that blue sidewalk. The only other kind of consideration that was made was a proposal to maybe wrap the sidewalk all the way around into the property and come back around. there you start hitting into other specimen trees, and the trade-off becomes kind of 6 of one, half of another. We think we're comfortable with this proposal as we've presented it, to have this tree removed as well. But we, and we've had some good back and forth with staff, so we're respectful of where they're coming from with this. But, to your point, power lines along there as well. And you've got a similarly situated tree to the northwest quadrant that we're losing. It's a lower quality one, but it's also right up on that right of way. So we just think it makes sense to do so. And to give you kind of some cover or some basis on the justification for that one in particular, there is a specific provision in your code that says that you can remove the tree if it's damaging and or interfering with the installation, operation, and or maintenance of existing or proposed public infrastructure. Whether you choose that to be the electrical lines that are already there or the sidewalk that will be required down there, you've got some justification for it. And it's tough because I know it's a 3. That being said, that 3 still is just that average number. None of these trees that are coming down are the type that you would build a focal point around. This is, we are not taking down pristine beauties. Not to diminish the importance of what we're doing, but in any event, happy to answer any questions you might have about that. We were very happy with staff's recommendation for approval with the removal that they recommend. I would just ask that maybe you guys consider removal of that tree 101 as well that's along the driveway, because we think long-term that's the better plan for it.
Any questions for council from any member of the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Any other member of the public like to address the commission? Is there a motion to accept the proposal of, get this right, the application number HTR 1-23, historic tree removal for the property located at 2376 State Road 44?
Are you including staff recommendation?
Yes, if that's that is in the motion. That could be in your motion if you move to approve that. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the historic tree removal application 1-23 to include tree 101, so to be a total of 11 trees identified in the site plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there some discussion? So we're going to do one more, the one that's nearby the edge there, if that's
By
it,
the
right?
driveway.
Any other questions? Any other comments?
Randy, you're excluding tree 101 from the motion?
No, he's
That's what I
including
thought.
it.
You're saying go ahead and take it down.
Yes.
Take it
That's what I
down.
thought.
Total of 11.
Total of 11 trees. Okay. A motion, and a second. No more discussion. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
No.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Motion's approved. And
May.
yes.
I hope the applicant takes into consideration some of the discussion about maybe mitigating to larger trees than the smaller trees, especially once you get into the design phase. So we certainly do appreciate that.
First readings, batter up for the city attorney. If you don't mind, Madam City Attorney, this is a reading for the first time by title only. Second readings for quasi-judicial hearings and public hearings will be conducted the 26th of September 2023 at a regular city commission meeting.
Ordinance number 5523, an ordinance amending the City of New Smyrna Beach Code of Ordinances, amending Appendix A, Personnel Policies and Procedures, Section 8, Benefits, B, Holidays, C, Personal Leave, and D, Personal Leave Managerial Positions to add Juneteenth as a holiday, to increase personal leave for general employees, and to standardize accrual carryovers for all employees, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. And it's my understanding there may be some discussion on this one.
Yes, I'm going to make a motion to split this into two separate items and keep the holidays separate from the personal leave. And I'll comment as to why.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and some discussion on that. Yeah.
Discussion. So I met with Heather, our HR manager, and she ran some numbers for me. The additional holiday, I believe, is for Juneteenth.
Yeah.
And the problem with adding a holiday for that for our staff, it's going to cost about $40,000. And what a lot of you don't know is I've received some emails from citizens asking why we don't celebrate Juneteenth in our parks like we do with Labor Day. So I'd like to do this in two steps. I'd like to do something like we did Labor Day in the parks with the food trucks. That event was about break even this year. And then she also did some research for me, and there's only 2 municipals in our county that have been offering this personal day. And so we would be the forerunners of this, so we have maybe a little bit of time to do this with our budget the way it is. I'd like to see us open this up to the community. One of the reasons we're having trouble with our budget is because we just gave all of the staff raises. So to give the staff another personal paid leave, that would trigger overtime with these. If that personal day and they had to work on that day, then it triggers the overtime, which equals the $40,000. So I would love to recommend that we approve this, but not this year, to do something for the community first, and that'll be in another motion. Based on the community emails, I'll reach out to the gentleman that emailed me about that and see where we go with that. But to actually approve the pension portion of it is what I would like to do, and then delay the 9th personal holiday for staff. And I believe Carrie can backdate that and change the ordinance.
So point of order for the city attorney. Are we actually going to vote twice, or we're just going to read them tonight and then read them again on the second reading and vote then and discuss them then?
So what we would do if the motion to separate them out is approved, staff would withdraw this item and on September 26th come back with either 2 ordinances or, depending upon Commissioner Perrine's second motion, it may be 1 or 2 ordinances depending on the action of the board.
Okay, so we can start with the one motion to reject this one.
Just to separate, right now the motion was to keep the holidays separate. So that's 2 ordinances as of right now.
Okay, the motion as stated is to make, to approve, but make them separate holidays, separate events.
It's not, so we don't have to vote on this ordinance tonight, but there's pending direction to staff that we would withdraw this and come back with 2 ordinances would be the effect of that motion.
Okay. We'll have, and I think we've got a motion and a second. We're in discussion, Vice Mayor.
So from a different perspective, and probably all of my mentors will be rolling over in their grave, holidays is a benefit. It should be negotiated through the contract negotiation period. So I'm not, or I used to be a fan of something like this. In this current time, I'm not a fan of that because the contracts are going to be up for renewal in 2024. So I think the holidays should be a part of that process and not necessarily just something. I think Heather's commitment was to specifically fire that she would bring forth the personal leave issue about raising the numbers and the buyouts, and she promised to bring those back before October 1st. So I think we should separate these 2 items out. I don't have a problem with the personal leave. We've kind of worked, again, I worked with her with some questions that I had. So I don't have a problem with that and that one moving forward. The effective date of the ordinance says it's effective October 1. So even if we go past October 1, when we do the second reading and the approval, it would be retroactive back to the first. So I think we've covered that issue in that time period. But I would rather just see these as two separate issues, and I'm personally not a fan of doing the holiday now. I think it's something that we should do later for various reasons.
So as I understand it, this is still in keeping with what I think your intent is. This motion is just to break them out.
Yes.
And so I think we're still on the same page. And then when you come back with two motions being brought out, we will rehear what both Commissioner Perrine, Commander, and Vice Mayor Hartman had to say. Okay, any more discussion on the motion to break these two events out? A yes means we'll break them out. A no means we will proceed as we were and read it again the second time as if they were
So
together.
these will be on first reading. So let's take this vote, then we'll address your concern.
Okay, very good.
So let me, just to make sure I understand, the motion is to withdraw the ordinance as it is written, separate it into two different ordinances to come back for first reading, hopefully at the next meeting.
Yes,
Agreed?
we're doing two things at once.
Okay.
Is that all right? You gonna let us,
Yep,
you gonna let us by with that?
go ahead.
All right, very good. So we're gonna, effectively, it does reject it, but it actually also corrects it into making one motion to do two things. Reject as written and bring back as two separate events. We have a motion and a second. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
City Manager.
So we'll come back to you with, based on the direction from the commission, with two separate ordinance, and it will be the first reading on September the 26th.
So ordinance 5523 as drafted has been withdrawn by staff. Ordinance number 5623. An ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach, Florida, rezoning 6 plus or minus acres of land generally located along State Road 44, south of its intersection with Colony Park Road, approving the Village Square Planned Unit Development Master Agreement, authorizing the mayor to execute the Village Square Planned Unit Development Master Development Agreement, providing for a public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. Ordinance number 57. Go ahead.
May I?
Sure.
So I don't have an issue with the PUD amendment. What I do have concern about is it has a 10-year expiration date on it. I thought the previous commission was moving in the directions to try to do these in 5-year increments so that some of these projects don't just hang out there and hang out there and hang out there for so long. So as staff discusses that before we get to the second reading, if we can come to some kind of an agreement?
Sure. The first thing I want to mention in regard to the time period is I'm not sure when it went from 10 years to 5 and what we were seeking with PUDs, but their application was first submitted in the summer of 2021, and that's the template, the date that was in there at 10 years, and really wasn't discussed by anybody until when Carrie was reading through and brought that point up. So she wanted that to make that clear to you that the 10 years instead of 5. And I guess the other
way
thing,
around.
Pardon me?
5 years instead of 10.
5 years instead of 10.
Right, the 10 years that's currently in there instead of the 5 that you are commonly seeking now, apparently. But this actually replaces the expired PUD that was originally recorded in 2009.
Yep.
That had a time period of 10 years, so it expired in 2019. So
Yet another problem.
right. The question is whether we want to have to come back here in 5 years and do this again if they've already had 10 years and that wasn't enough for the two properties. So
If you want to test the commission's will on this, I think you'll find an interesting result. Whether we want PUDs to be out there for 10 years or 5, I think we could probably vote on that and make it really clear for you. But I think what I heard the Vice Mayor ask is, as previously agreed by a previous commission, we have moved at some point from 10-year to 5 years. If you can modify that for this one, we'll be happy. If not, we'll go through the process of voting it down and going to 5 years, et cetera, et cetera. I predict. May not happen that way, but
Okay.
the vibe that I have is that we would like you to make this one and every one that you do from now on 5 years.
That's understood now, but the applicant, their representative is here now, and he may provide direction on whether 5 is good or he wants to stay with the 10 that was originally agreed upon and requested.
You mean the expired one?
Yes.
It's
Well-
now expired, so
No.
there is no
The
agreement.
10 years with the one before you now, if he's agreeable to that change to make it 5 years. Okay. So
I'm
we'll
not
make it
sure. I'm not
5.
sure we need to hear from him. If you're going to go do what Vice Mayor suggested and what was approved by a previous commission, that's wonderful. If not, we can demonstrate a vote for you.
Right, but
For the record, the applicant has agreed, and we can move on.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Gove.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, or just like with the 5 years, I have some difficulty in saying that up to 20% of a project is a minor change. That's 1/5 of the entire project, and that, I just think 20% is way too much. So I would like a reduction in that 20% to happen without any kind of commission involvement. And the other one is I would like, and this is a general statement also, it's not just this one, just like the 5 years is a general request. I don't think 20% is a minor deviation, and I would also like to see a baseline established when we talk about percentage changes. In other words, I don't want to see, they can change 10% this year and 10% next year when that makes it 121% of the original project. So I don't want a basis for cumulative that would dramatically change any project.
The items, I understand fully now. The items that she's asking for, is that accomplishable in a city document, a city instruction? Or do you need commission action to make that change?
I think it would be a good idea. The city attorney has drafted a template for PD. I think it's the commission direction to the staff to use the templates that the city attorney has drafted back in 2019.
And I would just direct the commission's attention to, it's on page 9, section 3, and when it talks about modifications of 20%, they're only minor so long as, and they have all these exceptions. So if it is, you can't change the floor area ratios, intensity, density, building height, setbacks, yards. So I'd encourage you to read that language before you make a decision on that. It also addresses the cumulative change. It talks about you can't do exactly what Commissioner Martin is concerned about. So I would encourage you to look at that.
So the downside of doing it as a blanket, Carrie, help us through that. I hear what you're saying. It's already been mitigated in there, and you can't do the cumulative thing one year after the other. But if we were to adopt that, is there Commissioner Martin, what's the downside of that?
Coming back to commission, so you could call it a substantial modification and go to Planning and Zoning Board. You know, whether they have final approval on that, that's something you all would need to hash out.
So I'll go to our experience, commissioners, for Randy and for Jason. When you changed from 5 to 10, did you make a vote by the commission and have it directed, or did you do it another way? Because it sounds like that's what we're headed for on this.
I think it was just a discussion item that we discussed, and it was the kind of the consensus at the time, because we were dealing with some 20-year-old projects, and, so we had one before us that was, I think it's a reserve of Lake Waterford, so we didn't want to give them a 10-year window. We put it on a 5-year window to try to either move these projects along, or at least have the developers have to come back before us, so that it just doesn't get put out there for another 20 or 25 years like some of the older projects that were approved in the county.
I understand the logic and follow that. I was more at a protocol thing. I fully agree with it and understand it. But the protocol was you did not have a formal motion to say okay.
No, we just amended it at the time.
Good enough. Now, we've heard the city attorney's opinion about what she thinks that the sufficient restrictions are in place because they're carve-out caveats not to include this, not to include this, not to include this, and then on the cumulative that you can't come back year after year after year and edge it up. So she says we're protected there.
I don't have a problem with that.
Commissioner Martin, how are you on that one?
Then I wish there was language clarity, because as certainly not an attorney, but reading it, I clearly saw that it was, I felt that it could be cumulative in some areas. I felt that the 20% could be interpreted differently. So that's as a layperson reading it, I was obviously uncomfortable. But if the commission reads that area and is comfortable, then so be it.
And we'll have a chance to do that for the second reading, or we'll get right back into this and say, no, we want to vote it down, and then we want to have a modification. Is that protocol, or does that unfair baseball to the applicant?
So I've pulled up the template just to make sure that it wasn't changed, but the minor modification, so we started using this in 18 or 19. So, if the applicant is willing to tweak that language, and if you want to change it to substantial and go to P&Z, just give that direction.
And would we do that at the second reading?
We would need to work on that now so we could come to an agreement before the public hearing.
Got it. That fixes it for this one, but it doesn't fix it in perpetuity, which I think is what she's after.
We'll just adopt it.
So I can send the PUD template to you, and if you guys are interested in making that a change moving forward, maybe we give that direction at a future meeting.
Okay, that sounds really good. That's helpful. Okay, I think we're good. And Jeff, thank you. I appreciate. I think we're good. I think you understand the direction here, and so just carry that out. We'll see you at the second reading.
Okay.
Wonderful. I think we're back to you.
Yep, I'm there. Ordinance number 5723. An ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach annexing .62 plus or minus acres of property located on the west side of Corbin Park Road between Hawks Cove Circle and Page Avenue, addressed as 684 Corbin Park Road, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 4, providing for public hearing, provided for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. Ordinance number 5823. An ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of .62 plus or minus acres of land located on the west side of Corbin Park Road between Hawks Cove Circle and Page Avenue, addressed as 684 Corbin Park Road, from Volusia County, urban medium intensity to city medium density residential, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Ordinance number 59, second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. Ordinance number 5923. An ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning .62 plus or minus acres of property located on the west side of Corbin Park Road between Hawks Cove Circle and Page Avenue, addressed as 684 Corbin Park Road, from Volusia County R4A Urban Single Family Residential Airport Overlay to City R2A Single Family Residential Airport Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. Ordinance 6023, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach annexing .22 plus or minus acres of property located on the east side of Palm Drive between Clare Avenue and Lydia Way, addressed as 579 Palm Drive, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 4, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. Ordinance number 6123, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of .22 plus or minus acres of land located on the east side of Palm Drive between Clare Avenue and Lydia Way, addressed as 579 Palm Drive, from Volusia County urban medium intensity to city medium density residential, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. Ordinance number 6223, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning .22 plus or minus acres of property located on the east side of Palm Drive between Clare Avenue and Lydia Way, addressed as 579 Palm Drive, from Volusia County R4A urban single-family residential airport overlay to city R2A single-family residential airport overlay zoning district, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023. Ordinance number 6323, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending ordinance number 5422 to revise user charges for the collection of garbage and household trash, yard trash, and household receptacles, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be September 26, 2023.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate that. I appreciate the first readings, and we'll look forward to our discussion of the second readings. On to boards and commissions. The city clerk will lead us in a report of each of the appointment considerations listed on the agenda. The appointments being considered are for 4 boards: Airport Advisory Board, Economic Development Task Force, Housing Authority, and Utilities Commission. And I think, Kelly, we'll just turn it over to you. You have some ideas about how we might do this tonight.
I do. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. First order of business that I wanted to ask for your consensus is I have an item on there, 11E, and that is to the advisory board recommendations. I do see 2 current advisory board members in the audience, so I wanted to know if I could please move this up first before we get to the actual board appointments, if that's okay with everybody.
Shall I move to have this moved
I just need
up?
a consensus.
No, without objection. Okay, very good.
All right. So at the June 13th meeting, I asked for permission for a temporary meeting hold so that city staff and I can discuss the best way to move forward with the 3 newly established boards. The recommendations are on your staff report. I have spoke in depth with Leisure Services Director Rob Salazar. I want to bring back a resolution saying that that board would be supported by Rob Salazar and changing the meeting frequency from every other month to quarterly, like most advisory boards are. Rob has agreed to that too. We both came to that conclusion. The EDTF, this was the board that originally was called upon by City Commission. They would call if there was a special project. Chris Edwards would be managing that board. What I wanted to bring back to Commission was changing the meeting frequency from as called upon by the City Commission to meeting quarterly so that they would have a set date. The third one was the Facilities Advisory Committee. When we established this meeting body, we were in between capital improvement project managers, from Michelle Valance to Todd Alexander. So there was some concern there about some of the facilities, and this meeting body was enacted. Now we have a CIP manager, which is Jesse Kobe, and we also have created a new position since then that's currently filled by Chad Gibson. He's the CIP grants coordinator. So I recommend sunsetting this meeting body. It's really not something that's necessary anymore, especially with all of the neighborhood informational meetings. They're getting the same information. So I'm looking for consensus to bring back 3 different resolutions, because the only way to make those changes would be via resolution at the next meeting or the one after that, preferably the next one.
Any discussion on the proposals that the city clerk is making? Without objection?
Okay.
Excellent.
Great. The next one, I've spoke to a majority of you about the board appointments. So I wanted to bring this up. I do think it's necessary to have a special meeting in the future to address some of the concerns. But the majority of the current concerns I wanted to explain are exclusive to city commission. They're not something really that the city clerk's office would handle. Examples would be investigating the special interest group affiliations or stacking the boards with the applicants. We can't tell that on an application. The changing of board-specific qualifications and screening applicants past residency requirement, meaning social media, criminal and civil court cases. So that those kind of things, if there are concern and there's a consensus with commission, we can certainly, you have the right to schedule a special meeting or workshop in the future to discuss that. But tonight, there are 4 boards that really, they don't fall into those categories. I have recommendations that I'm pretty confident to go through, depending, it's your call. I'm prepared to move forward, but I can also.
What's the commission's will on that? Is there anybody that has a particular?
I'm not sure I followed Kelly, exactly what was your question for tonight?
I think she wants to see if we can proceed tonight, but in the future, tweak the process so that it's different than today.
Deal with the issues you just brought up at a later date and proceed with the board appointments for today.
Right, I looked at all of the issues, so most of them were city commission specific.
No, I understand, I got that, and I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
There's only one that I would be comfortable with moving forward, and that would be the Utilities Commission, because I think we need to make that decision. But I kind of want to do a little bit of a background. In April 2023, we voted to review some of the boards at that time, and we asked to delay, reappoint on a temporary basis the HPC, and to look at the job or the objectives and the qualifications at that time. We still haven't done it. I received an email this week from a board member that was appointed to economic development and the facility advisory, but neither of those boards have even met in a year. So we need, before we appoint more people, we got to fix our problem. The process is broken. The other thing that I wanted to mention on this is their reappointments. Some of these applications didn't have resumes, some of them did. These reappointments were appointed by another board, not us. So I think it's important that we all discuss what's important to you and what's important to me. I would like to see resumes and applications and to make sure they're qualified, but we don't know what those qualification is. That's not up to Kelly to make those decisions. It's up to us. So we have issues that I think the processes are broken. Instead of appointing more people and setting them up for failure, I know this. I was on a board for 4 years. I want to make this right and go right going forward. So I believe there might be one that I was told that we need to vote on tonight, possibly, and maybe continue the other ones until we get better direction from all of us of what we'd like to see, and then we can pass that on and have good boards going forward. This many boards that we have, we need to look at each one of them, I think, in a special meeting where we can vote at that time.
So is there some more discussion on this? I hear the strong request from at least one commissioner to take up the board issue that is external to us. That would be the Utility Commission Board. Make that appointment vote tonight because it does not It is not tied to our boards, but rather vote on that tonight and then defer the others until we have a special meeting where we can have a conversation about how we do business. Is it your expectation that the staff work would go on before that meeting or as a result of that meeting to square us away? Do you have work that the staff needs to do before we would take this up again, should we decide to defer? Is there staff work that has to go before we would meet again?
Staff work.
Staff work to figure this out, or is that up to us to invent?
I think when Commissioner Perrine talked to the city clerk, my suggestion is if that's an issue for the commission, I think a special meeting to discuss the boards in general, I think would be a good idea. So the commission is on board of the qualifications, what the expectations are and so forth. So there's two options. You could have a special meeting between now and October, or if you want, you could have that agenda item for the December workshop. But special meeting is you'd be able to vote. and you'd
I
be
favor
able to
the
then-
special meeting over the workshop. The workshop is traditionally for our strategic plan, and I think that needs to be sacrosanct and kept like that. I know another meeting is not desirable, but I think in this particular case, and I happen to agree, we do have some tricing up to do of our,
And my suggestion is not to have it before a city commission meeting, because I think you need some time to discuss it and clearly to define the goals, the responsibilities, and the duties. And what is the commission is expecting out of the board and the appointee. So I think a special meeting just to discuss that item, I think would be a good idea.
May I add that these are all tied to departments. And I would like the department head to come in and say, this is what would be helpful to us from a citizen advisory board. And in addition, what is the pathway to the city commission? So right now, for example, the airport advisory board, have you seen any presentations from them? So it's just one, it strikes me that some of the flailing that's gone on with boards has been because there's no path to the commission.
And that's why I'm suggesting the special meeting.
I'm with you, and just hope the department head is included.
Yep. Oh, yeah, they would be included.
Commissioner McGurk.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, this is going to be a lot of discussion and not something to just jump into. Or, yeah, these aren't easy topics. And so, yes, separate it. We're going to need time. We're going to need a lot of time on this.
Vice Mayor.
So I think this is disrespectful to those boards that are already out there and those applicants who have already gone through the application process, following the rules that we had in place at the time. So I'm comfortable with making the 4 appointments tonight so that these boards can move forward. I think what Kelly did earlier about bringing forth resolutions as how some of those board meetings are handled and carried out, I would like to see that before we have that discussion about going forward with them. But certainly you have 4 boards who all have vacancies, all those terms have all expired. And we've had applicants who've been through the process. I think it's disrespectful to them to say, oh, we're changing the rules midstream here, you're gonna have to wait and come back, and oh, by the way, we may add more qualifications and yada, yada, yada. So I'm comfortable moving forward with the 4 appointments tonight. And then if we wanna have a meeting at some point in the future, discuss how we do these boards, then certainly I'm amenable to that. But we, you know, there are items that will come before these, probably before we actually come to some consensus and actually, you know, put in place any new process that we may have. So I think it's important that we go ahead and fill these 4 positions tonight.
Chair recognizes the strong opposition to the commissioner's desire to defer. I got that. And so let's have some more robust discussion. I see this is going to head for a vote on whether we proceed or not. Commissioner Martin.
I think Randy's made a very good point about the respect that we should show to the citizens who have stepped forward. I don't believe that there is a total disconnect. We can say we are appointing these people tonight, and we are reevaluating the entire Citizen Advisory Board at a meeting in November or December. So I think we can do both. I think we can honor the citizens that have applied, as well as make it well known to the city that we are reviewing.
Comment?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Perrine.
We reappointed the HPC board only on a temporary basis. We did not reappoint them for the full term. So why would we treat these reappointments any differently than what we just did to them? For example, I was working in Orlando Friday all day, and I get these new ones on my plate, and it's weekend for me to go through all of these resumes, applications. I'm missing half of these reappointments. They weren't even included in my packet. You guys appointed them, we didn't. I couldn't click on some of the resumes. It told me not available, or, you know, I have 2 days to turn these around. I'm not comfortable. I'm not going to vote yes on any of this, that, unless it's just a temporary, just because it's not fair. I might be appointing somebody that isn't doing a good job. Are they not contributing? You know, I haven't had a chance to talk to Arvin or any of, you know, these other boards except for, like I said, the utilities. I don't know if they're doing a good job. I don't know what their criteria we have. I'm willing to do a temporary like we did HBC, but I'm not going to reappoint them for a full term.
So I've yet to weigh in, but I do favor the caution to not throw good effort after bad and reappoint people that this body is not familiar with because of the absence of their information. No fault of their own. Certainly no disrespect for any citizen that wants to step forward. But I think I also hear the hue and cry of our citizenry that says, you want our participation. We don't feel like we are participating. We're happy to have had the assignment, but when we get into the job, the access we need, the information we need, our net result is hampered by the current protocol of who handles the boards and how the department heads are linked or not linked, and then Commissioner Martin's comment about what the pathway is back to the commission. Some of that is legislative versus administrative, and I think we're going to get some insight on that from our mandatory training. Some of that probably needs to be bridged. So with your concern, Randy, about ever showing any disrespect to anybody who followed the process, if their application is in and it's thorough, it will stand up and it'll be fine. If it's not, and they want to have an opportunity to make it better, I think we ought to give them the opportunity to make it better. I happen to favor deferring and getting it right one time. And so that's my 2 cents. Anybody else have an opinion? So this is going to need a vote. And so the vote would be either made by, either commissioner, any commissioner can make a vote, make a motion, obviously, but the motion would be in the affirmative. I move, a motion similar to moving to proceed and nominate, or a motion, and that gets voted down. That means we defer. Or a motion that says, I move that we defer. Either is acceptable. Is there a motion?
I'm confused because this is an agenda item on the board for us to take up and consider tonight, these 4 appointments. So I would think that we would have to go forward with those. I understand some of the concerns which can be addressed at a later time. HPC is not one of the boards being considered tonight, so I understand that those were temporary and we can deal with those at some point in the future. But to not go ahead with these tonight, I think, is an injustice to those citizens who have spent their time in earnest. We don't require resumes. They're not required. And depending on which form they actually fill out, sometimes you can attach them, sometimes you can't. But these are all, with the exception of maybe one, these were all before us 2 weeks ago when the meeting ran out and we didn't get addressed to them. So there's been ample time to look at all of the people who have made applications up to these boards. I know there have been some in the last 48 hours, but those people aren't even on the agenda because they're not considered, because they're not timely in their application. So I think those are other issues that we can deal with when we meet and discuss where we want to go forward. But I don't know that, do we need a motion to carry out our business? Or?
Well, I think this body can do what it wants. We can either take it up or we can defer it. And so I see this division between who wants to do what, so we can continue to debate. I fully hear you twice now to say, hey, I don't want to disrespect anybody. Got that loud and clear. You want to proceed, Commissioner Perrine does not, and so we're going to have a split, so we need to figure out what we're going to do. That's all I'm saying. Madam City Clerk.
I can just add on a little bit to that. The resumes they've always been optional. I've tried to make the process for applications as simple as possible for the applicant. Some people just simply don't have a resume, and we have a hard time getting volunteers anyway. So that has never been required, which is something that can be discussed at a special meeting. The other thing is that including all applications for a board vacancy, we changed that a couple of years ago when a member is in good standing and they have not termed out, good standing meaning attendance behavior, then automatically I would just go ahead and recommend for them to be reconsidered for considered for reappointment if they haven't termed out. Right now, there was a request to include all the applications, which I think confused it a little bit because there's been a few different directives, given to me, which is another reason that we should have a special meeting, because I just need one direction from everybody going forward. But yes, tonight, HPC is not on there. I thought that was going to be continued because of those qualifications, but these boards are separate than them, so.
Thank you for the clarification. Do I have a motion to move either one way or the other from any commissioner?
Okay, first, have we made a motion whether to hold a workshop? Do we need?
Special meeting, not a workshop.
Not yet, until after this, we'll ask you for a
So,
motion for a
okay.
special meeting.
So is the request whether we're going to do any board appointments tonight?
That's what we've been discussing. There are two separate bipolar views on it. I'm just looking for a motion from either of them or
I
from
would
anybody.
make a motion to move forward on the appointments.
Okay, there's a motion to move forward. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there more discussion? Madam City Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
No. Okay, we'll move forward.
All right, the first,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
You go ahead.
The first board that I have on here is Airport Advisory Board, and that is to consider the reappointment of the Chair, James Dempsey, and also, let me see, appointing applicant David Maid to serve a 3-year term, reappointing either Celeste Lester or Eileen Smizer to serve the unexpired term vacated by the untimely death of Jeffrey Mitchell. That would be expiring next year, actually, on September 9th. But since both were termed out this year, I figured that would be the recommendation.
So make nominate James Dempsey and David May to fill the 2 3-year terms.
I would nominate James Dempsey. Oh, wait, you said James Dempsey,
James
didn't
Dempsey.
you? Yes, no, I second that nomination if that's possible.
And David May.
Okay.
So we have a nomination for 2 of the members. You need a total of 3, yeah?
Well, I'll deal the third one after these 2 are.
Right, I can
Okay.
go ahead and call.
Very good. We have a nomination for 2. Do you need an oral vote or written vote?
I can take a roll call if you'd like, make it official.
Okay.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes?
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
I nominate Celeste Lester to fill the remaining term that expires on September the 9th, 2024.
We have a motion. Do we need we don't need a second on nomination. Okay. Any other nominations? Madam City Clerk.
All right, Commissioner Preen?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
We don't have any other,
Yes.
There is one more. There is another applicant, Eileen Smizer. So,
Who has not been nominated yet.
right, has not been nominated. I was
no.
Vice Mayor Hartman,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next board is Economic Development Task Force. There were 3 applicants, 2 vacancies. The applications submitted were from John Joquin, Suzanne Jones, and Jesse Romero. Currently, there are 3 members on the board, Thomas Bean, Charles Tagman, Richard Chambers. They need 2 more to make it a 5-person board.
I'd like
Nominations?
to nominate John Joquin, please.
One nomination for Mr. Jochen. Any other nominations?
I nominate Susan Jones.
Okay.
Susan Jones.
Okay. And I nominate Jess Romero.
Okay, so we have 3, and I think you might have a ballot for that one. Very good.
You can only select 2 since the equal number of vacancies.
All right, for the record, we're selecting 2 of 3.
There you go.
All right, John Joquin has 5 votes from all commissions, so he would be 1. Let's see. And the second one is going to be Suzanne Jones. There were 2 votes for her from Commissioner Hartman, Commissioner McGurk. There were 2 votes for Jesse Romero, and then Commissioner Breen just selected 1. She didn't select a second, so.
So now you have a tie for the second one. Do you want to do it? You want to go again?
Yeah, you're going to have to for the second one. So this second one is only going to be between Suzanne Jones and Jesse Romero.
Make it the same result.
We don't do a good job. We don't do a good job of getting people to.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason for that.
I don't care.
All right. By majority vote, Jesse Romero. There were 3 for him, 2 for Suzanne Jones. So the 2 new members are John Joquin and Jesse Romero for the EDTF. All right, the third item was for the Housing Authority. Current member Rosemary Walker's term expired on August 31st. She is interested in serving again. We have not received any additional applications. That board is pretty hard to receive applications for, but she is interested.
I would nominate her to continue on.
Okay.
Fourth term. Okay, we have a nomination of the only applicant for the fourth term.
Okay, we can go for that. We don't need to vote unless there's some opposing. All right.
Would it be more satisfying to have an affirmative vote
We
for the
could.
applicant?
We could.
Call the
if you
roll,
want to.
please.
All right, Commissioner Preen?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Thank you. Last one is Utilities Commission. Currently, there's one member that has just completed his first term. I have spoke with the Utilities Commission. His name is James Smith. He's had no attendance problems, good behavior. They are the only board in our city that has three-year terms. So he has just completed his first three-year term, and I do recommend him for appointment.
And I'd like to second that recommendation if possible.
Okay, we have a nominee, and there's only one applicant.
I included all of the applicants.
That's right.
As a courtesy to.
So we have one nomination.
Right.
Okay.
To
Any other
reappoint.
any other nominations? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Preen?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate your-
Does the city clerk have any more in her report?
I do not. Thank you
Okay,
very much for
very
your
good.
patience.
Thank you very much. All right, very good. This time it's for the commissioners to provide their report. We'll start with the vice mayor. You got a report, sir?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if you could just have either a motion or something to have the special meeting.
On the, okay, yeah, the chair to entertain a motion to have a special meeting to discuss the process for which we conduct our boards and all of the accoutrements that go with that.
So moved.
Have a motion to have a special meeting on boards. Is there a second?
Second.
City clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Preen?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
So moved. Thank you very much. Okay. Vice Mayor, have you got a report, sir?
I do have a couple of quick things. The first is the work on the Fifth Street Bridge. I noticed that the signage was a little confusing in the past couple of weeks, so hopefully we've gotten that worked out. I actually said the bridge was closed when it wasn't closed, but one of the signs though says it was under construction, so as we do that. I would encourage a conversation that we had, somebody made earlier about giving the residents a little bit of feedback, whether we do it through Philip's office or something, or maybe he can get with Kyle or Chad or somebody and say, you know, they're going to be doing pilings for the next month, you know, just so that the neighborhood knows they'll be banging or whatever, you know, just if we can give some kind of an update as to what the progress is as the bridge goes forward, you know, on the city's website or whatever. I think that would be beneficial to a lot of the residents in the neighborhood, just so that they would have some idea. I know at some point in time we may be talking about street closures, so, you know, that information will come out. But I think it's important that the community knows a little bit about what's going on. And it doesn't have to be an exact timetable, but certainly, you know, for the month of September, we're looking at doing X, Y, and Z. The second thing is, you mentioned the World Champion Board. It was a little disappointing to me, as having tried to been one of the founders of this idea going forward. The original discussion was to have some kind of a wall or some place to display these plaques as you enter the sports complex. Putting them on the wall on the football stadium where only football people or track people see them is not beneficial to the youth of the community or those visitors who come into our sports complex and see some of the wonderful things that have been going on and some of those athletes who have excelled over the years. By the way, the football team has never won anything, so they're not on the plaque. But hopefully, we have our fingers crossed, right?
What's your point?
So, But, you know, I think that was, I mean, that was the intent when I first brought this up, was to have it in a central location so that as people come into the sports complex, they can see some of the, you know, the accomplishments that the youth here in New Smyrna Beach have been able to accomplish. And even, I think at one time discussed with David, some of those athletes who used to live here or work here, played here, and that they've gone on and done other things, played professionally or whatever. You know, Rashid would be one of them, you know, some kind of a recognition for those. So, and you said it was a work in progress, so I would just hope that as we go forward that maybe that be considered. I know it's a budget issue also, so, you know.
But if I may, Vice Mayor, because before we selected the north wall, we have presented to the commission, if you recall.
Yes.
And that was because I had the staff to look for a strategic area where they could put the wall. And so that was selected, and so I'm not sure because we really tried. I think David at the time was at the sport complex, and then when Rob came in, both of them have looked at the sport complex overall to see where would fit best. And it seems like if we do it some other way, then it's going to cost a lot more. And so they figured out this wall was existing. A lot of people come there. I think that's what she's supposed to be exposing, that wall of champions. So I understand. I mean, I think your idea is
voted against
good.
it then, so I'm just, you know, voicing.
But I think at least we have it.
Yeah. Attended the meeting today, along with all of you, with the elected leaders through the Volusia League of Cities. It was an interesting conversation, and if you're not familiar with the process, I think a couple of those legislators laid out the process and how the process goes. For those of you who are new to this, if you paid close attention, almost every one of them said, if you want something done, contact my staff. So just going forward, staff are major players in these things as we move projects through the legislative process. So I appreciate that. So that's all my comments.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner McGurk.
No comments, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Martin.
I met Francine Barnes from Volusia Volunteers in Medicine last October. And Valley, I know, reached out to her and us, and we gave $500 towards their work. And Francine has reached out to me and asked for just a positive recommendation, just a letter from the city for a grant they are pursuing. Could I get a consensus from the commission that it's okay to send this letter saying, you know, we believed in them and we hope the new grant people will also?
Oops, I already sent one. I did it from me, though, as an individual. She reached out to me and asked if I would do a letter of recommendation.
No, and that's
I didn't
fine.
do it
Because of
naming all of
sunshine,
us, but
I didn't ask
Yeah.
you. But I asked her if it's more helpful for me as an individual, which I was willing to do, or would it look better to get one on city letterhead? And she said, well, frankly, the city letterhead would be even more helpful. So that would be a personal one from you and then one from the city, which I think would be lovely.
that's perfect. I just didn't want to overstep my bounds by saying it was from all of us. It was just from me. So,
We're good.
thank you. Okay.
We're covering all bases here.
All right.
So without
Thank you.
objection,
Okay.
without objection, okay.
As long as it's approved through the city manager. And
Very good.
We need to be very careful with putting the city letterhead on who we endorse. But we did give her grant money, but
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
saying that's not something I'm gonna want. I don't want to go to that well too many times, but I got you.
I hear you. Okay. Well, hopefully, we believe in volunteers in medicine over at the Department of Health. Okay. Next, I regret that we have not made a loud and very public statement from the city that we will not tolerate anti-Semitic, KKK flyers, or any other kind of hate information being distributed through the city. I just feel like we have been silent, and yes, I have heard about it from constituents saying, why aren't we standing out loud? So that's my statement on that.
So what's the suggestion?
What would you like to do?
I would like a statement from the city. You know, we've seen this, say, from Mike Chitwood in the past, just simply stating, we will not tolerate this type of hate.
Pretty sure the news release from the police department was exactly like that.
Yeah.
Will not be
That-
tolerated, and we will not.
It wasn't seen by a large portion of the city. That's all I'm saying. And, you know,
Well, hold on, that's not what you said. You said we did not respond. We did respond. You just changed it to, well, a lot of people didn't see it. There's a big difference in that, so
All
I
right.
take exception to that.
Okay. Let me rephrase it to say that that the police bulletin was not broadly seen. How's that? Okay?
So we got that as a statement of fact. Is there something you want us to do?
I think it's a little late now.
Okay.
But I think it's important that the constituents that have reached out to me know that we are aware of it and that we are not tolerating it.
So we had an incident,
It's
it was
on me.
before, we had an incident before this meeting, and so this is our first opportunity to get together and decide to do something. if
Understand?
you
So
want.
it's now on record, okay?
I'm up for some suggestions, so when this happens in the future, we go ahead, we have an idea of, staff has an idea of what we'd like to see done, so I'm
I'm
open
not
for
sure
suggestions.
that I want to set in process tonight something that hopefully will never happen again. I'm not, okay. And so, and my last statement for the night is, as Khalid knows, I had a lot of questions about a lot of items on the consent agenda, which basically were just a box not being checked or incomplete information. And I want to say that I'm very uncomfortable voting to approve these things when I am assuming information, not knowing it. So I would like us to be much more thorough going forward. Thank you. That's it. And have a great evening.
Commissioner Breen?
I want to add to what Vice Mayor Hartman said about the Riverside Drive citizens and the Fifth Street Bridge. I've had one citizen reach out to me in May just asking for the schedule. I sent that to that citizen, and then recently I had a citizen want a public meeting, and he suggested from the yacht club. I told him I wasn't a member of the yacht club, and I was going to direct this to staff and what they wanted to do, if it was a PowerPoint, and to go through this, because the signs went up. They were worried that the bridge was going to be where the sign was because the sign company told that resident that that's where it was going to go, and it was wrong. The site plan hadn't been changed. But the only time I really know the actual schedule is from what I received in May, which is probably what it is now. It may need tweaked. So I'm looking to staff for this guidance. If we need a meeting, I've only had one resident reach out for a meeting, but Randy is actually probably more in tune, and Mayor, with that. So I'm available to always be there for that. But last Friday, I attended our first legislative committee meeting in Orlando, and we reviewed 5 bills that didn't pass last year that were really close to passing. So what they want us to do as a legislative committee is to look at those bills and what impact our city the most. One that jumped out at me was sovereign immunity. It's huge. So next week, I'm going to be meeting with Khalid and Carrie and Shay, or whoever wants to, meet from staff, to make some recommendation of the 5 bills, what they would like to see me vote on for us as a city, and then in October we can present new bills as well. But the sovereign immunity is kind of scary, because if that were to pass, and it impacts our insurance greatly, they were seeing a $100,000 increase on insurance would would put some of the smaller cities under. It would be that detrimental in cost. And if you know our budget tomorrow, our costs on our insurance has jumped without a change in sovereign immunity. So I'll be discussing that more. I'm actually excited about going to it. In October, it's the new bills. We meet November, December, and then Tallahassee in January. From the 2 that we choose out of the 5, plus the new, the Florida League of Cities, the 2 that we choose, we go all the way to Tallahassee with them.
Okay, thank you for your report. I appreciate that. A couple of items to congrats to you for getting selected and willing to serve on that Florida League of Cities Legislative Committee. It's awesome. You've heard each commissioner talk tonight about the communications plan, and I think it's as important as the action plan. And so maybe to the city manager, maybe through our communications director, maybe through your own office, but a robust plan to communicate and get the word out. You often depend on us, and we do okay, but having something from your office is probably the most robust plan. And comm plan shouldn't be an afterthought, it should be a forethought before we ever get to something. And so I'm not accusing anybody of missing the mark, but time and again we hear from our residents, what are you doing? Talk to us, please. And we scurry around to try to do that. I think if we had a systematic process in place that said, before we do this, we will communicate robustly. Police department does a nice job of it. Fire department does a nice job of it. If we could do it universally, it would be awesome. The timing of the CRA, I know, has been a topic of conversation over the years. And I've talked to the city manager who has been ping-pong ball between holding it early with lots of time in between and holding it right at the end. I think the way we're doing it today is we hold the CRA right 20 after the hour and jump right into the city commission meeting afterwards. What I've witnessed happen from here, looking out there, is the disruption of people coming into the room who want to get a seat for the city commission meeting, the door slamming, the people moving chairs and what have you, is actually disruptive to what's going on at the CRA. So maybe there's a fine line in the middle. I don't know what that right timing is, but if you guys that have been here before have an opinion about that, it'd be wonderful to share. I think that at the buzzer right before, while efficient, is disruptive. Kudos and commendations to the city staff for the hurricane prep. We have many of our citizens who reacted differently this year because of last year's devastation, and that's positive. But one step past that is the PTSD that they suffer from the devastation that they had. So while I'm very excited that everybody took this one seriously, I'm well aware that we still have at least 80 homes of people that are not in their homes because they have not been remediated yet, and that it does send off all sorts of buzzers and warnings and psychological dysfunction every time we have a storm. That you set up the command center so fast, that you had the phone number out there, and you had everybody in place is commendable. Thank you very much for doing that.
And to add that, Mayor, I forgot to mention it, we start using the texting. So we've sent the texts. I'm assuming everybody got the text.
The warning.
The text about about the evacuation, the volunteer evacuation.
It goes to all residents. It goes to everybody.
It
right?
went to everybody. 42,000 texts went out.
Very good. Thank you. The legislative delegation today that came was very instructive, and so to put a fine point on that, I listened, as did Randy. Getting to the staff, Khaled, that's in your lane. You know that game better than all of us. The hint Tom Wright gave me a couple days ago was, don't wait until December, whatever the deadline is, on your old things that got disapproved or vetoed. Dribble them in and start now. And so I don't know how, I'm not savvy enough to know yet how to make that all work. I'm sure we have a role with the elected official, Chase, Tremont, Tom Wright, Wesley Barnaby, but you have a role, I'm sure, somewhere to connect up the staff, and if you need our assistance, we're anxious to do that.
I think, Mayor, since you brought that subject, and I think it's if you paid attention, which I think all of you did, November 14th is the deadline for special projects. But if you remember, he stressed on the matching, and he stressed on not an idea.
What have you done?
So we have projects, so the matching fund is an important thing. So I just want to make sure, because a lot of times we apply, but then they say, well, why did you apply? Because we have no matching funds. So I'm just making sure. I might not be able to come to the commission, but I'm going to take some of these projects that we have already submitted to other agencies and submit those projects because they are in design. So it's not like about an idea, it's actually we have something in the pipeline. The design is almost either 60 or 90%. So the matching, I'm gonna put, there's a matching fund. So there will be a 50% matching fund, so.
Awesome. That seemed to be a key with Chairman Leak today, saying, hey, if you have money in the game, I'm interested. If you don't, you have an idea, come back to me when you have skin in the game. Really good. So that's the legislative stuff. We have not debriefed or discussed openly all of the great things that went on at the Florida League of Cities event, which we divided and conquered. So sorry that you had your medical incident and that you are now back up and at 'em and then missed that great opportunity. But we owe you an opportunity, and we owe each other the opportunity. I think we divided and conquered, and we all went different ways while we were there. We planned that out so that we could get the best out of that. Like to have a sharing of time, and I don't know what's appropriate, Colin, whether it's a workshop, whether it's a meeting, whether you dovetail it onto another meeting.
I
But
think in December, I think that would be a good time during the strategic update. I think we could talk about that.
And so before that happens, I have a handout. I had the opportunity to get invited to an event while we were there, and I'd like you to consider that we join. It was the U.S. Delegation of Mayors. They get, it was a very nice meeting. The Orlando mayor, the Miami mayor, they're very interesting group of folks, and it's the U.S. delegation. They have lobbying authority, they have White House access, they have cabinet member access. It costs money to join. It's an annual fee for cities of 30,000 or greater. I have the note from the former mayor of the city of Dayton, Ohio, who is their recruiting chair, with some background information. And I'll happily hand that out for a determination of another date of a vote by the commission if we want to dedicate. I think it's $3,400 a year to attend and join that organization. I had the pleasure of attending with the police chief a 9/11 event on Sunday. It's called Tunnel to Towers. This town is going to benefit from Tunnel to Towers. It's an opportunity. There's a foundation who will provide for every fallen member of our police department and our fire department mortgage recompense on the mortgage that they have on their home. And so not just for 9/11 victims, not just for police in New York City or firefighters in New York City, but right here in New Smyrna. So we went to that. It's their second annual event. Last year raised $35,000. This year they're raised north of $65,000, all in about 3 hours of work. Really, really nice job of the turnout that we had there. We talked about getting our ask in early for next year's budget cycle. And so, Colin, I'm assuming you're on that, and we will hear from you soon. Lastly, I think we are all, I want us to do good work as a group because we are now representing the city, and we are effectively on the inside. And so if there's a problem and it's something we're not doing as a city, I would like rather than us to carp at the inaction, that we take the action and say, here's what I'd like to do. I'd rather have an idea and have you guys say, Cleveland, that's not a good idea, than to not be able to bring the idea to you and so forth. So when it comes to activities of the city staff, we are part and parcel of that. We owe the city staff direction. That's our job as policy setters. And if we're not doing something as a city, we got to get in front of it and make those desires known. That's a summation, sir, of my report. I'll now turn to the city attorney. Have you got an interesting update for us, ma'am?
I have a few items. First, the Airgate litigation continues on. Airgate has been granted leave of court to file a counterclaim against the city. Once that happens, we're going to have 20 days to respond. We're looking for an increase in the outside counsel to not to exceed amount of $75,000. It's Sarah Metz with Smith Hood Brockman. So I need a motion for that.
So say some more. This is to complete the litigation, or are they volleying back a different suit?
They're going to, we don't know what, but they're essentially suing the city with whatever claims they may have.
This is to mount our defense against a suit that they may be launching. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay. And so maybe I missed the first part. How are we doing on what our problem, our suit was?
We're making forward progress. They have deposited money into the registry, the $147,000 roughly. So that's in the registry. This still remains to carry that portion out, but now we're waiting for.
Was that ordered? Was that ordered?
It was
by the
ordered
judge?
and it's in the registry.
Ordered by the judge? Okay.
And it's been deposited.
So my understanding is this is coming out of the airport fund?
It is.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the additional money not to exceed $75,000 for the Airgate.
Second.
Motion to dedicate $75,000, or not to exceed $75,000 to make our defense and hire outside counsel. We have a second. Any more discussion on that?
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
A couple more items. I was contacted by an attorney today that we will be getting an appeal from the rezoning request from R3 to R3A, so that should be forthcoming in the next couple weeks. We also were served with a Burt Harris claim today regarding Hill Street. They're claiming $1.25 million is due to them. Got that about an hour before the meeting, so I'll be looking into that.
Refresh my memory, the Hill Street is the application for the deck or something?
Yes, the deck and balconies. And that's the conclusion of my report.
So what was the rezoning, but who's filing the complaint?
It's on behalf of the residents. So I'm sure.
Resident. Oh, you don't.
I don't know yet. So.
Okay. Well, that was all very exciting. Thank you very much for that. City Manager, your report, sir.
I think I got all my items. I think there's two items that let me if I can get them quickly. The city parcels that they are in the CRA district, they will be coming to you on September the 26th. Remember how we have the city properties, we kind of put on an RFP, and two agencies submitted, and then finally you selected one. So now these are the parcels in the CRA district. They'll be coming on the 26th. And then the 26th also, you will have the workshop on the city manager recruitment process. So, thank you.
Any by the ways? I believe we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.